Hello and welcome to the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hansen, I have a Nintendo Direct level announcement.
Yes, please.
I have new glasses.
Wow.
Don't you like them?
The
I look
star of the
completely
show.
different now.
It's a real
Different
Clark Kent
person.
situation. It's how does it feel? Do you like it?
It's the clearest I've ever seen. Well, maybe not ever,
What?
but like I haven't gotten new glasses in almost a decade. So to have lenses that aren't smudged and scratched has been incredible.
Wait, you could have just swapped out the lenses on your old glasses.
That's not how it works, man.
Okay, great. We also have Serial Vasquez.
Hello. I don't have a Nintendo level announcement. I just want you to know that there's one coming soon, but we're still working on it, and we'll have more information by the end of the year.
That sounds perfect. Also, special guest. We can't get rid of this frickin' guy. Dan Reichert. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. And I got to say, Kyle getting new glasses is a Nintendo Direct level of excitement considering this last Nintendo Direct.
All right,
It's appropriate.
we're going to get into it. We're going to unpack the latest Nintendo Direct. We're going to talk about Bowser's Fury, a little bit about Super Mario 3D World, all that fun stuff. Valheim, Dan and I will talk about. Everybody else can, chime in and crack wise. Cyril, I see that gleam in your eye like you're ready to crack wise. Then we have some great community questions for the back half of the show and other fun surprises in there as well. Dan Reichert, thank you for being here.
Of course, anytime. I love being here on the MinnMax.
That's right.
MinnMax.com, go to the Patreon. Do you have that URL?
MinnMax.com is actually, it's a beautiful site. Actually, every once in a while I go there and it's like, I really did a good job a long time ago setting this thing up. It's a nice looking site, but there's not, it has like the schedule.
The site can't be reached. Oh, wait, no, now it's going. Okay, you got a link to the Patreon.
Dan, that's two Ns.
Yeah.
Two ends. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Support us on Patreon. You got the video. How old is this video with your Final Fantasy going on here?
Yeah, it's mostly just Anna talking about how she's looking forward to Final Fantasy VII Remake. So it's as timeless as ever. We got the merch on there. We got a bunch of dumb stuff. Dan, people know you from your hot Twitch streams, twitch.tv/Dan Reichert.
That's correct. I do the Twitch. I do video game stuff on the internet. I also do a podcast with my wife, Bianca, who's been on MinnMax here called Painting the Stream.
Yeah, technically Bianca was on our Crossfade podcast, music podcast. She hasn't been on this show yet, but it'd be fun to line something up with her.
But in the MinnMax umbrella, under the family, right?
That's right. It's all a family. I'm interested, Dan, in your YouTube channel where you put a lot of your Twitch streams, because I'm always fascinated. Okay, just like the highlights, the good ones?
Only ones that are appropriate for you, because a lot of my Twitch stuff is like really heavy on interaction with the chat and just running around doing dumb shit. And when that stuff doesn't really play, like if there's too much interaction back and forth and like channel points betting and all that stuff, I feel like that doesn't really play on YouTube as much. So only like full playthroughs of games, some like kind of event streams and stuff like that. So a good chunk of them.
But what fascinates me is that you have the comments turned off on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
That's a bold move.
You know what? People say that, and like there are a couple I've turned it on just to be like, let's see what this is like. And people are like, oh, thank God, comments finally. And I know the algorithm favors that. I've seen Leo's video. I understand how the YouTube God works.
Yeah.
So I know it's like the smart thing to do if you are trying to become like a big YouTuber or something. Yeah. But I am not. Like YouTube is not a priority for me. Most like video game heavy things, I just tend to not have comments turned on because people just are dumbasses about video games all the time. And it's like, I don't want my mods to have to deal with it. I don't have time to deal with it. But like a speed run tutorial on like, Astro's Playroom, I'll maybe turn the comments on for that because maybe people are like, how do I do this? And I'm not going to hop in and be like, well, I'll do this. But,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, thank you for taking the time in your busy schedule to be the co-host for the first episode of Trivia Tower, our show that debuted on Monday. It's up on our YouTube channel now. That was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed that a lot. That was great.
Yeah, so if you like, so it all kind of came, we talked about it a little bit last week, like teased it in the back half of the show, but it is up now, so you can check out our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/MinnMax Show. The full archive is there. Like if you miss bar trivia and you have always wanted a dedicated, elaborate video game trivia show, I feel like Trivia Tower is right up your alley. I know I would love watching it if I was on the outside. So hopefully folks enjoy it. And if you want to compete next month, it's going to be like in the middle of every month. We're going to have Trivia Tower. So if you support us at any tier on Patreon, you can jump in the Discord and compete. And hopefully you get a good idea of how it all works from that video. But it's several different rounds and stuff. And it's a hell of a good time. It's fun to host trivia, it turns out.
Yeah, and who came up with the concept of the Discord tiers where your mods were giving like extra like access for each floor? That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, because the way it works is we have like everybody that's in that MinnMax Discord starts out on the first floor, and then we have 25 questions, and they move up to the second floor, and it's kind of like a trivia battle royale moving up between the floors. I think it was me. It was confusing. It was Leo's idea to do it in Discord because I wanted to do it in the YouTube chat. but there's so much more flexibility. And then realizing like, oh crap, we can make different floors and move people up, and the mods have been great. So anyways, check out that archive. Hey, let's actually talk about what's going on this week. The big Nintendo Direct. People were excited when they announced this thing on Tuesday. People were ready, taking off work, sitting down in front of their TV, ready to go.
Selling their homes,
so eager.
Buying stock, and companies are being shorted.
I was worried on behalf of the internet. Like, you know, I tweeted a couple times about being excited about the Breath of the Wild sequel and stuff. So I don't know if I did enough to deflate the hype, but you know, before our, you know, reaction stream, I was trying to deflate it a little bit because everybody was immediately jumping to, this is going to be the Zelda 35th anniversary stream, which is like, no. Like, keep in mind that Mario one happened in September. Like, they need to save something for that window if they're going to celebrate Zelda in the big way. Kyle, you're hemming and hawing already.
Well, I mean, you cannot look at a pattern. Like, you just can't. There's no pattern for this stuff. So, like, I definitely went in with, like, you know, timid expectations, but I don't think people were being ridiculous getting excited about Zelda. Like, I think that was, like, a fair thing to expect. To expect, like, Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be out soon, like, that's too much. But, like, I expected at least a little bit more for Zelda, you know?
I expected a name for the Breath of the Wild sequel, so just so they don't have to keep dancing around the sequel to Breath of the Wild. But Dan, I saw you were streaming your reaction. You want to explain the big setup for the Breath of the Wild sequel announcement here?
Oh my God, it drove me nuts because it's like, I thought at the least we were going to get the 35th anniversary, like, I don't know, Ocarina Majora, Wind Waker, you know, something like that, or bring Twilight Princess, you know, some bigger thing we would get announced. And I was hoping for like, well, at least we're going to get like a tease just to be like, hey, remember thing that everyone wants?
Yeah.
It's still happening. You know, maybe not details, maybe not a full breakdown or anything like that, but just something new to chew on. And as a near the end, at the spot where there's like 10 minutes left, and you're like, okay, we've got just enough time to get real deep into something here. Show a bunch of like, oh, they upgraded, you know, look at Majora, the moon looks great. Anuma shows up on the screen, and I'm just like, here we go. Here's the thing we were waiting for. They don't bring out Anuma, just Anuma in front of a black screen, says the Legend of Zelda producer, here it comes. Here comes the megaton, as they said back in the day. And then he starts out by saying, hi, you know, Breath of the Wild 2, you all want to hear more about it? No, we're not going to. We're not talking about that. He literally was just like, nah, we were going to, hey, how about Skyward Sword?
It was, I think, more of a what are they going to do? Like, they know that the fan base is at a fever pitch. They have to address it somehow. And so he's damned no matter what he does. But he got out there and just tried to immediately say, like, we don't have any news on Breath of the Wild. But it's even worse than that, though, because then he follows it up by saying, we apologize, quote, development is proceeding smoothly. We should be able to bring you some new information this year.
Which, you know how you cut that off at the pass is you say, you know, when they said like, hey, we're going to have a direct tomorrow and it's going to focus on this and games from the first half of 2021. Just put a little addendum on there that says like, we will not be discussing, you know, the next version or the new console announcements or Breath of the Wild. That will come at a later date, just to set expectations.
Yeah, you're right. Just that little addendum. And then I think with the Skyward Sword thing, I think people would be pleasantly surprised by like, oh, there actually is some Zelda thing happening here in some way. But like the way that Anuma phrased that went from me thinking that, oh, maybe there's a chance Breath of the Wild sequel could come out in March and they try and sync it up in that March window, or maybe be fall. But now I'm like, this thing's not coming this year. Like, Kyle, do you have any, am I reading too far into Anuma's very vague, we should be able to bring you some info this year?
I mean, that to me, they are shortening that gap between information and release so much that I could see a Breath of the Wild 2 direct later this year for a March release. Like, I think that timeline...
That's insane.
I'm sorry, March 2022.
Came out in March?
Sorry.
Oh, March 2022. Okay.
Yeah, not 2021. I'm sorry. Yeah, 2022 March. Like, I could see them releasing a bunch of information in like September, October, November, and then it coming out in March. I could, or even a shorter, you know, gap. I could see that happening.
Yeah. But then there was a big reveal that, hey, Skyward Sword HD, it's coming to the Switch. Dan, you're grimacing in a way to make it seem like it's a bad game, but
Well, I mean, Game Informer gave it a 10. It can't be bad.
Look, I really enjoyed my time with Skyward Sword. I think there's going to be that groundswell of a little bit like what happened with Twilight Princess when that was re-released on the Wii U. And Dan, I remember you had that take of like, oh, this game's so much better than I remember it. And I think Skyward Sword's going to be in the same camp.
That's the immediate thing I think about is that Twilight Princess, was a victim of like insane hype. I mean, that was the, Nintendo trailer that, people were crying about and all that. And
yeah.
So, and it was like for the people that were disappointed with Wind Waker, which they're insane, because of the Zelda stuff or whatever. Everyone hyped it up so much that it was never going to deliver. That said, I remember thinking Twilight Princess was really good back when it came out. Maybe it wasn't the like ocarina killer everybody wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But then playing it again on Wii U, removed from all that hype and everything, and with some of the stuff kind of like the wolf tier requirements and stuff kind of shaved down, it was super good, and I appreciated it for having like probably the best dungeons in 3D Zelda. Skyward Sword, on the other hand, has much larger issues with the whole core of the game, not just the motion stuff, because I think the motion stuff will be remedied a bit by that right analog stick deal, not having to do motion plus all the time.
Real quick, yeah. So you can play with the 2 Joy-Cons. They have it simulating, so it's like the Wiimote and nunchuck and all that stuff. Or they have for the light version, or if you want to play on the big screen, there's a button-only control scheme for Skyward Sword where the right analog stick is like the angle of the sword, which seems clumsy, but what are you going to do?
Which begs the question, how do you do the camera?
Oh, interesting.
Well, I mean, that you didn't control the camera in Skyward Sword. You just press the left button to
Was there not a free camera at all?
You. No.
I mean, even if they did have, they could implement it so that the right analog stick controls the camera while you're outside of Z targeting, and then in Z targeting, that's when the analog stick controls.
That's a good point. Yeah,
could be.
Like a shift button type situation.
Yeah, you never had free camera control, but the big surprise for me, it was having a button version of the game.
Yeah.
Like my wife and I had an argument years and years and years ago, about a decade ago. So I said that there would never be a button version of it. And she was like, of course there will be eventually. And we even made a bet that I was like, it's never going to happen. And then and then I was even in 2019, Onuma told Brian Shea at Game Informer, I have a quote here. He's like, Brian Shea asked about, buttons, a Skyward Sword version with buttons. And Onuma said, so you're saying control it all with buttons? That's a little hard. I think it might be close to impossible. So I was like feeling pretty confident that we would never see Skyward Sword without motion controls. But then it got announced and my wife was ecstatic because she basically won a decade-old bet.
What was the bet?
Made.
Yeah.
The bet was I said it would never happen. And she was like, it will happen.
Yeah, what was on the line?
Oh, I had to tweet. Should I read my tweet?
Please. I hope it's extra embarrassing.
This is my tweet that I lost the bet for. About 10 years ago, Ashley Godbold said Skyward Sword would someday release without motion controls. Yeah. Like a big stupid jerk, I said she was wrong. We bet if it ever did, I would have to tell the internet I am the dummiest of all dummies and she knows more about video games than I.
And that's true then?
That's a real tweet
it's
that you can go
it's
find.
Wow.
You can't tweet if it's not true.
It's true.
It's true. It's true.
The core thing, though, like the button deal and emotions, like that is one of the things that I was curious, like, how do you fix that? Because that was kind of a pain in the ass. Like some of those boss fights, it was really kind of wonky and inconsistent. But the larger thing for me is it is this glacial pace for like 10 hours. Like getting that game started, getting off that first Skyloft or whatever that island's called.
Yeah.
And then even once you're kind of past that and you're in the groove, you keep going back to the same basic areas over and over and over again in that game. That's a huge thing for me. Like they can do some quality of life stuff. Like don't have Fee explain to me what a rupee is every time I pick one up.
Exactly. They have to fix that, right? There's no way.
Nintendo's
part
weird.
Of the charm, dude. That's the intention of the game.
Shut up, you idiot.
It's a little concerning that they didn't outline any of those quality of life features if that's in there. I'm sure they could do it at some point, but I think they abridged that one quest in Wind Waker, and I think they added like a dungeon to Twilight Princess, and like I think those were pretty upfront. They were pretty upfront about that stuff. And here they didn't announce like, hey, like we fixed the control scheme, but they haven't said like, hey, the Silent Realms sections are going to be a lot shorter. The things where you're swimming to collect notes underwater are going to be shorter.
I remember that
flying is a little bit better. They're not going to tell you about how rubies are good for trade goods and services like every time you get one. But I agree with Dan in that it is very slow, but I also feel like it is the most up and down Zelda for me because it is like in terms of everything that you do outside of dungeons, I think is like straight up bad. But I think those outside inside dungeons are like maybe my favorite Zelda dungeons in terms of how clever they are, how many cool moments there are. Like there's the one where you're like the sand, and then you realize like, oh, this used to be sea, and like you're time traveling like spatially, where you have like this area of the dungeon is like this kind of dome that you're kind of following will time travel as you're moving through it, and then like that, all that stuff is so well done, but all the moments between that stuff I think are just so like not interesting, boring, and sometimes frustrating.
And I think you have to lead with that. Like, I don't remember how they announced the Wind Waker HD thing, but like, I feel like from the get-go, it was like, oh my God, they're giving us a swift sail. So, you know, a lot of people complained about the sailing speed. That's fixed. And you mentioned the abridged quest. Yeah, the Tingle Map stuff at the end, which like, again, the Tingle Map thing is a thing you can just kind of, I know it's not that easy, but you can basically flip a switch and be like, okay, you don't have to do this part of it, versus Skyward Sword being so just like massive parts of the game that aren't, if it was just Fee over-explaining rupees and hearts, that's something they could fix. I feel like the core experience of Skyward Sword is very flawed and probably the second worst Zelda game. Mainline Zelda game.
Mainline Zelda? Does that include Triforce Heroes?
That's not a mainline game, no. Which we'll get to some mainline game stuff later.
All right.
I take umbrage. Umbrage I take.
I like when they took the time in this, when Anuma just trying to calm down the YouTube comments, like you could feel the hate coming, where he's like, look, Skyward Sword, there are some elements in this that we kind of pulled into Breath of the Wild. Like, it's kind of similar in some
don't
ways.
You dare try to compare this to Breath of the Wild. Don't you do that.
It had a stamina meter. Link sometimes climbed stuff. I'm saying this is the sequel you wanted.
It's basically Breath of the Wild prequel. It's Breath of the Wild 0 was the original title.
We're actually retitling it to the prequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
That's right. Yeah.
Online in the eShop.
I deeply regret adding so much brattiness to Anuma. He's a good man who came out and gave a fine presentation. We're just like projecting all this smug attitude onto him. Nah.
You guys like the new one, right? This is kind of like that.
Pre-order now.
The fact that people like that game, I don't know what you guys. I hated Breath of the Wild. The weapon degradation, hated it. Wasn't a part of it. I wish I hadn't designed it.
Anyways,
I thought you were speaking as Serial. Okay.
No, he's still a character.
Enough people have said that about Breath of the Wild. There are people that straight up hate Breath of the Wild that love Zelda, and I just cannot wrap my head around that.
It's mind-boggling. But yeah, Skyward Sword coming out July 16th. That'll be an interesting game to go back and revisit.
I'll play it again.
Yeah, for the whole Nintendo Direct, I sent out a Twitter poll from our Twitter account here asking, what you thought about it. The number one answer was fine, and some fun stuff in there. It was great, got 8%. So it was fine, got 43%. That was no good, got 23%, and the hype is our fault, got 26%. So
fair.
Yeah, that seems like a good read.
Nintendo, they just can't. There's nothing they can do short of just tweeting out a list of what will be shown to limit hype. There's just, you know what I mean?
I think Dan's right. I think it's more of those little heads up. People will pay attention to that.
Yeah, I think it's also in the short term. I think whenever they announced things that were just here's Bayonetta 3 logo, here's Metroid Prime 4 logo. I think in the short term that might have been the right thing to do, but in the long term it's come to bite them in the ass, because that is all that people are thinking about now, is that this has to be the year. We have to get something from these games that have been announced and that are coming. And I think that has basically spawned a cloud over every subsequent presentation they've had. It's just when are you going to give us the things that you promised? Right?
And I've always hated that approach. I hate getting excited about something and then seeing that feels like infinite away. That feels like 4 years from now. I can't even fathom what I'll be doing in 4 years. I like it when it's okay, here's the game. Here's the first time you see it. We can show you a meaty chunk of game and you can play it in 3 months. That's how I like it.
Yeah, but if you just take it for the announcements that were in here, there was plenty of interesting stuff. No huge juggernauts, I don't think, but
Golf.
Yeah. Mario Golf, it seems great. Mario Golf Super Rush is the name of this thing, coming out June 25th. And it seems solid, I like Mario Golf games, that'll be fun. And then they blew our freaking minds by having
Mario and khakis.
That's right. And Wario in a cowboy hat or whatever the hell's going on.
Tycoon Wario. Yeah. That's the natural progression of that character.
No, but showing off that speed golf mode where you're actually running across the course, rolling on an egg with your Yoshi. It seems insane to try and hit the ball before other people. That's going to be fun as hell.
They've taken inspiration from that moment when you're playing mini golf that you all decide to say, screw it to scoring and just say, let's just everyone stroke as fast as possible. Beeline to the finish. We're done. We have about an hour left before we have to get our food, so we're leaving.
Yeah. Golf is fun now. Just use your putters like they're lightsabers and fight each other. I don't know. Just anything except for golf, please. I thought the opening trailer was really fun, and I am kicking myself for not realizing where I was going first. But opening with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I was like, a second wave of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 DLC? That seems so weird. But it was going on for so long, I never thought for a second that it was secretly going to be the Smash reveal. And it turns out Pyrrha and Mithra, 2 characters in one, are coming to Smash Ultimate.
I can't wait to own more amiibo that I think is a Fire Emblem amiibo every time I look at
it. Yeah, I know.
These ones are sci-fi, totally different than medieval.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's completely wild.
You're friends with Shulk.
They love Shulk. They're the ones who insist that he wears a shirt.
Yeah.
Let's see. The other big thing, this announcement alone is huge. Splatoon 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like one of those things similarly to Xenoblade where I was like, oh, this must be a big expansion to Splatoon 2. Like for some reason 3 never occurred to me until I saw the number on screen. I don't know why. The timing's right. It's been long enough,
It's so funny because an hour before the stream started, I just offhandedly happened to mention Splatoon 3. They're like, you know what? No one's ever brought up Splatoon 3 as a thing that might be at this direct. Maybe that'll happen. And that what ended up being like the kicker at the end of the conference.
Nice. People
the whole start, like the whole like Mad Max start of them in this like apocalyptic wasteland. Yes. I kept waiting for like, what is this a new type of thing in this Splatoon universe? Is this going to be a battle royale? Is this going to be like a weird story mode? Like
a single there is already single player.
Yeah, I mean like
depth single player or something.
Yeah. This is I've been meaning to, but from what I played of the first Splatoon, like that is 100% where that storyline was going. Is just like Splatoon is a post-apocalypse universe.
Yeah.
Where like history has like the world has flooded and then like people just eventually evolved into squid kids.
Well, the part that I'm trying to figure out though is it seems like it might be connected. Maybe this is a stretch, but Splatoon fans, please let me know. But the last Splatfest was in 2019, and that was the big final Splatfest they were billing it as, and it was chaos versus order. And it was like very much themed like that. Like chaos was the post-apocalyptic world and order was like a more unified world. And it turns out that chaos won. And so I don't know if fans are reading into it, but a lot of people in the Reddit are like, well, this is because chaos won, then they shifted the tone of this world, or just maybe the tone of like the reveal trailer to make it seem like it's more post-apocalyptic before the character goes to the new town, which is not Inkopolis anymore. It's called Splatsville. And of course, it exists in the Splatlands is the name of the region.
This is deeper lore than I think the paint this thing the most game deserves.
That story mode, I have reason to believe is somewhat wild in terms of what it implies. Not necessarily like that story is like meaningful or deep or whatever. Just like the idea of like, we're just gonna offhandedly toss off this reference to the apocalypse. I don't know, whatever.
I love that trailer, man.
Spirited Away reference in there randomly, like felt out of place. I don't know.
Like sitting waiting for the bus, you mean?
Yeah, it was framed almost identical to the not waiting for the bus, but on the bus.
Oh,
like
sure.
It's Chihiro on the bus, like almost, or train rather, almost exactly. It feels like.
Yeah, I love that trailer. Like, I know we were all just clamoring for more announcements and stuff, but if you look at that trailer on its own, it had such a weird, cool vibe, just subdued overall. Like the idea of the Inkling going into the city and then just like the drums slowly building. It was just awesome.
Eiffel Tower upside down.
It was a really sweet, and then like cutting to black, then the drums just kick in super loud. Like I thought it was really well done.
Yeah. I wonder if they knew how like that they had to close strong on this because they weren't going to have any of the things people wanted. Well, like obviously Splatoon 3 is something that people wanted, but like I wonder if they just got like the that guy who directed the Breath of the Wild trailer. We need to get him on this. This has to be like a killer trailer. This trailer has to be our top trailer. But yeah, like that trailer was really strong. But I think the one thing that is concerning about the presentation over all of the direct is that they showed trailers. They mentioned that they were going to have like in the first half of the year. And then they showed a few trailers for games that are hitting next year. And they didn't show a trailer for Zelda, which like obviously it's hard to predict with Nintendo, but that makes me think Breath of the Wild is further away than even those games. But for all we know, it is like announced and released within 4 months or something.
Yeah,
I feel like I could see them saving literally everything about that game for like its own like 40-minute blowout direct,
Yeah, for sure. But yes, Splatoon 3, they just said 2022. And so, yeah, maybe that's going to be.
I would love to not know anything about Breath of the Wild 2 and just be able to buy it. And I feel like if there's any game that they could maybe do that with. It's Breath of the Wild 2, just on title alone. I would love that, I'm always like clamoring for that. Like, I just want the next Chris Nolan movie to just be called Chris Nolan's new movie and don't have any trailers, nothing, no summary, just you have to go to a theater and see it or rent it at home.
Warner Brothers
I would
love that
for Breath of the Wild.
They
Kyle,
love not marketing movies.
My parents have an awesome cabin out in the woods, and I can just come get you when Breath of the Wild 2 is out.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, that's a guarantee.
That's a haunted cabin, right? With a notebook?
Yeah, that's the haunted cabin. You try and survive it for one night, let alone for...
It's kind of terrifying.
It is a very spooky cabin. Hey, if you're listening to this, don't go to that cabin. Other things that they announced, of course, we all saw this coming, Project Triangle Strategy, which is the new game from, of course, Square Enix, our dear friends, and it's the same team as Octopath Traveler. And this one seems cool. It's very inspired by Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah, it is part of the long lineage of working titles becoming the final title series.
Yeah, we'll see what it ends up being. But Dan, are you excited for that thing? You like those ingredients, right?
Yeah. So I did like a full 180 on that because like it was up until that point they had been showing a bunch of games that were just like, this is not for me. It's a bunch of JRPG type stuff. And I was like, all right, I need a Dan game next. And then like all of a sudden these portraits and all these words and pragmatic, the loyal, it looked like anime stuff or whatever. It's like, okay, instantly tuned out. This is not a Dan game. And then I saw the art style and I was like, ooh, that looks pretty sharp. And HD 2D series, I don't know what that is. And then I heard Bianca yell from the other room. She's like, yes! And I was like, wait, why would she be excited? And I realized, oh, this is Octopath. Like she loves Octopath. And then I realized it was a tactics game.
Yeah.
And I do, as much as I'm not a JRPG guy, I love Final Fantasy Tactics, Where the Lines Advance, all that stuff. So this super actually looks up my alley. And also, I have not looked into this, but someone tweeted me right before I came on here that they downloaded that demo thing that's up now in the eShop, and the Art Dink logo showed up at the beginning.
Oh, your Tale of the Sun boys.
Tale of the Sun. Yes, they're still around. They're still called Art Dink and apparently still making games.
Weird. Were they involved in Octopath?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Huh. That's a weird one. But yeah, that's a little surprise.
I played the first battle in that demo. And it is, I will say that it is slow, but it has a lot of interesting ideas. Thing is that, if you're playing like tactics, and I don't know, like I haven't played tactics, so I'm not sure if this is a thing, but like after you issue an order to your unit, you can position which way they're facing. Mm-hmm. So you can say like, I'm going to use fire or whatever. And then to end your turn, you face a direction, and there's all sorts of like if you're backstabbing someone it'll do double damage, or like there are certain spells, there's all these like there are certain spells that you can make a wall of ice that can prevent, which means people have to go around. It ended up being like a pretty long battle for like I killed maybe like 8 units total, and it took about like half an hour just because a lot of it is not being familiar with the interface, I will say, and just like how you're supposed to command units, but like it seemed pretty solid overall. Like that's cool. I like the look of that combat. There are, the story doesn't really, it's like this in the middle of it, so it's like hard to know. But it seemed interesting enough to where like I didn't play Octopath Traveler, but I'm interested in this.
Yeah, that's cool.
That sounds very tactics. I mean, like I viewed each one of those not like a traditional Final Fantasy battle, but more like a little individual chess game. And it is like, okay, well, I attacked them, and now I want to make sure my back isn't exposed to these characters, and that sounds very tactics.
Did tactics also use like the staggered turn order, where it's like, okay, your unit, then their unit, then your unit, then their unit. Okay,
and you can do a thing where it's like I cast slow on you or whatever, and that bumps you down the like priority thing. Yeah,
there are certain attacks where you can push people, things like that. Yeah.
Sweet. Nice. Other things, let's see, Mario stuff's going to be in Animal Crossing. The coolest thing is you can get the warp pipe on your Animal Crossing island. It's like, that'd be cool just to have an immediate teleport thing in Animal Crossing. They announced Star Wars Hunter, which is a free-to-play game that's also going to be on phones that Zynga's developing, but they say it's third person, and it takes place between episodes 6 and 7. So they're trying to build it up that you're actually going to care about these characters. Like even on their official site, it's like, I saw you got a tease of the Wookiee and other exciting characters coming and some sort of new Sith, which is weird in that time frame, but who knows? It's a Zynga game. World's End Club.
What do you mean by that, Ben?
It's great.
Zynga's back. I don't know what the last game they made. I
don't know if together. Maybe that should be a new show plus show is we could just dive into Zynga stuff. Because I don't know if I've ever played a Zynga game in my life.
I think most of them are offline. Buzz Zynga? Yeah, that was there.
Yeah. World's End Club, it's from the Danganronpa team. So that crowd seemed excited about that, which is great. Knockout City, which it was a roller coaster ride where it started out very Incredibles intro of like these different video game characters talking about playing video games. And then I was getting excited about like, oh, all these different art styles mashed together, like Counter-Strike versus this 8-bit character. It's going to be awesome. Then they show the game and they all like unify the art style, which seems to be the antithesis of what that was setting up and what was exciting about that premise.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. I was like, oh, in game they all look similar. It was like it was an odd choice.
Yeah, and so it's technically dodgeball or dodge brawl as they put it. But then I had another 180 where it turns out that Velan Studios is developing it, who is from the founders of Vicarious Visions, and they recently made Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. I was like, oh, they did a good job with that. I'm curious to see what that studio does, and I know there's previews out there, but I haven't checked out too much about it yet. But
the gameplay looked pretty like drawn to death to me, which
It kind of,
It also strikes me. I feel like Knockout City could be another name for Rocket Arena. Yeah. And so I think I'm just going to get the two games confused.
Right. Also, EA partner for Knockout Cities, just like Rocket Arena. It's an odd one. And then I am still trying to wrap my mind around this one. Neon White, which is an assassin in heaven, and it's published by Annapurna, and it looks so different for an Annapurna game, and it's from Ben Esposito, the developer of Donut County. But it's like a first-person game that's card-based, and you're running around this environment killing people in heaven. It looks wild. It looks very Japanese.
Like platforming heavy. It looked kind of like a Mirror's Edge type of like real fast first-person platforming and stuff, but with a totally different aesthetic.
Yeah, and it's like every element, like you mentioned, every individual element seems like, are you sure? Like I would fact check it if I were writing it up like as a news bit of like, okay, are you sure it's developed by Esposito and published by Annapurna, and that it looks like this, and it's got this weird heaven and hell thing, and that it's also card based. Well, but it looks cool.
It does look cool. Just in case you're confused about Serial, there's a quote on the official press release here. Quote, this is from game designer and creator Ben Esposito. Neon White is a first-person action platformer inspired by Y2K-era anime and cult classic character action games. Our goal is to make the sickest game on the demo disc. It's wild and over the top, and it's 100% earnest. It's a campy anime speedrunning game made for freaks by freaks.
Man, sickest game on the demo disc. That's a great way to describe a game.
Yeah, you lost me at for freaks by freaks, but sickest demo on the demo disc. I'm into that.
Yeah, you say for freaks, Kyle says bye freaks. Anyways, that was a Nintendo Direct.
Bio Freaks, the N64 fighting game.
That's right. You constantly scream about it. Also, Miitopia is coming to Switch. That bizarre 3DS game. Maybe that'll capture like a little bit of that Animal Crossing weird social aspect about people just making Miis and then watching each other. I don't know, watch Abe Lincoln shower or whatever happens in Miitopia.
It's so weird because like Mii's, like it's easy to forget that they're still around, except for if you see like someone's like friend icon. Like during the Wii era, everyone had a Mii because everybody was playing Wii Sports and you wanted to play tennis as yourself. And then every console generation past that, it's just like, yeah, they're still there, but no one uses them. So it's like to make a whole thing that's based on like a suite of Mii's is weird.
Yeah. Cool to see.
You have to go deep into the settings to like find where to make your.
Yeah. Hey, that's the Direct. Did we miss anything that stood out to anybody else?
Yeah, No More Heroes 3 has a release date, August 24th.
Yeah, what'd you think about that gameplay?
I think it looks okay. I'm not crazy about the premise. Like the alien stuff seems to me a lot less interesting.
Yeah.
They're adding what looks like the abilities from Travis Strikes Again, which is, things that are basically on a cooldown and you equip. And then there was one where he was like firing all these like lasers or missiles or some sort of magic enemies, which you couldn't do in the first two games. So it seems like they're taking some of the ideas that worked in Travis Strikes Again and adding them here. But in terms of like the look of it, I think it's stylish, but it's like very, very campy. So I'm interested to see what that stuff all looks in context. But like I'll play it, but I think maybe my excitement for it is maybe a little diminished unless they do something weird. Which some of those boss battles, one of them had like an RPG command system.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It's like they're like all those boss fights are going to be more set pieces than like actual fights, which seems like up Suda's alley for sure.
Yeah. Kyle, you had something to start to you?
Wii U debut is going to be coming to the Switch.
That's right. Ninja Gaiden trilogy.
That's actually, Dan, that's the one I was going to bring up actually.
Really?
Yeah.
And I will never forget that opening sentence that you wrote, reuse Wii U debut. It's always stuck in my brain.
Too.
But like Ninja Gaiden, like really tried to play that game when it came out, and I found it so frustrating. And like, I would revisit it every couple of years, and like, maybe I will like it now, and I never do. And it might be another round of that, but I'm excited to have that opportunity to like give it another shot. I will absolutely play that on Switch. I did not, and it was genuinely surprising. Right? What's that?
You're referring to the first Ninja Gaiden or the reboot first one? Oh, okay.
Yes,
that one. That's the one definitely worth playing. The second one's all right. The third one's pretty terrible. But that first one is hard as hell, but super good.
Yeah, you can play that game comfortably on easy and not feel bad about it because it's still pretty tough there. And I think that game is incredible. But
I think the last time I tried it was Vita. There was a Vita release.
Sigma Black.
Yeah, it played okay, but like I was still I don't know. I'm still not really having fun, and I don't know why I keep thinking I will eventually. But I keep trying. I keep buying it.
I mean, this has been something I've been tracking for 20 years now. Ninja Gaiden Black on the original Xbox, that is the same as Sigma that's coming out of the Switch?
So there's Ninja Gaiden, which was the Xbox game. Ninja Gaiden Black was kind of like a Game of the Year edition that had some extra content and stuff in it. Ninja Gaiden
it had easy mode on it, right?
Ninja Dog mode. Ninja Gaiden Sigma was the PS3 version because I think there was some weird thing where Itagaki didn't want to have his games on PlayStation because he was an Xbox guy. So I think they just made some changes or whatever, and they just retitled it. Okay. And then the Sigma 2 is like the complete version of 2. And then Ninja Gaiden 3 didn't get a Sigma. Sigma dies in the second one, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, the fall off in that series is pretty evident because like the first one I think is fantastic. The second one is fine. And then the third one break my PS3. So
okay, perfect.
Great.
Hey, let's talk about games we can play here. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. Awesome to finally have 3D World on the Switch. I absolutely love that game. And just like, real quick, just for a nerdy corner, I was looking at sales numbers. That game, 3D World on the Wii U, sold 5.8 million copies. Great selling game. But I'm so
Wii U, that's great numbers.
Yeah, but for everybody else, like I'm so excited for so many people to dive into that game because I think in terms of 3D Mario games, that is definitely underrated. But I mean, compared to like Odyssey sold 20 million, Galaxy just sold 12, which seems shockingly low. But still, I think this is just going to mop up on Switch.
Well, I remember thinking it was crazy the sales discrepancy between Galaxy and a new Super Mario Brothers Wii.
Yeah,
like new Super Mario Brothers like just blew it out of the water.
That it sold
so much more bold.
Yeah. Galaxy sold 12 million on the Wii, and the new Super Mario Brothers on the Wii sold 30 million.
Yeah.
Well, the Wii sold to so many people that hadn't owned a video game console since for years. Like that's like, oh, that looks like old Mario. That's the Mario I remember. So I kind of understand why that one outsold it. It shouldn't have.
Yeah, it was also a pack-in at some point. I think there was like some version of the console that came with it. So I don't think Galaxy ever was.
Yeah, and 3D World's fantastic, but unfortunately, Dan insists that it's not a real Mario game.
Not in the timeline.
That's a great impression. It's a great impression.
Thank you.
But let me fix this right now. Someone pointed out to me, I think it was Serial that said that. No, it's Serial and Ben saying this, and I'm pointing at the camera that you're not seeing if you're listening to the podcast. But me saying it is not a mainline Mario game is not a quality
I understand that.
It is a categorization thing. That's it.
So you can't
mainline series. I'll say it again: Mario 2, Mario 3, Mario World, Yoshi's Island, which is Super Mario World 2, 64, Sunshine, Galaxy 2, Odyssey. That is the mainline series.
Based on your criteria, your nonsense criteria versus like the actual development team and the talent and the full force of Nintendo.
Sure, that's all well and good, but some site called me a Mario historian a few months ago. So who are you going to trust?
Some site.
Was it your Twitter?
I will say that for the record, I will say that I did say on that podcast that you were not the only one, and I think my
lots of people can be wrong.
Well, my issue was that like not that the category stuff, which is one thing, but like the fact that people kind of rate this as one of the lower tier Marios in terms of like, oh yeah, this is not on the level of all these other great Mario games, but it's fine or whatever, which I disagree with completely.
Here's a simple way to look at it. When I talk about the mainline ones, they're all single player experiences that kind of follow a natural progression, throughout the console generations and everything. It's all single player adventures and stuff.
Co-op.
This is a different type of thing. It's kind of these linear levels, 4-player, it's directly following up on the 3D Land game.
And that's why 3D Land makes your criteria?
No, it doesn't. That's why I'm saying
that's a single player experience.
Well, but it's on a 3DS, so
that doesn't count. I mean, Link Between Worlds counts for mainline Zelda, doesn't it? So sit down before you fall down, Dan.
Yeah, Link Between Worlds does. But Mario Land, I always saw as a different thing. Like the Mario Land series was part of the like Game Boy portable Mario.
And you're putting 3D Land more in the Mario Land freak sideshow?
No. 3D Land and 3D World are in the 3D series. The lands 1 and 2, I don't really count Mario Land 3, Wario Land, but it's got Mario Land in the title. That's the Land series. There's the 3D series and the mainline series. And then you got the sports and horse stuff, I don't mean that. That's not a quality thing. I think those are great games too.
Some horse great.
Yeah, I mean, there was that part in the timeline where like Super Mario 64 fractured the timeline, and there's future Mario and past Mario, and then does Mario lose to Bowser? That's a third time.
Look, they finally canonized it in an art book that came out a couple of years later.
I regret even
the one that brings them all together.
Shouldn't have even brought this up, Dan. It's like you coming over and I've spread crayons around my living room floor, and they're not organized by color. But it's like, no, it makes sense. Clearly, it's organized this way. It's like, based on what? It's like, only my own vision. It's only organized this way through your weird viewpoint that you're adamant about, and it makes no sense.
Take away all the other stuff about land and like if there's just a mainline series, that all makes sense logically. There are single player Mario adventures.
3D Land. 3D Land.
Mario. Well, 3D Land. Well, I mean,
okay.
It's hard to find that logic.
Shout out Land precedent is
I wish that game didn't exist.
Well, I mean, to put aside like the categorization stuff, I think 3D Mario is a Mario in which you control Mario in 3D space. But I do get what you mean in that this feels like a 2D Mario that you just happen to control Mario in 3 dimensions because it is level based. It has the like in this level there are 3 hidden things that you have to find, and then like you use those as currency to unlock stuff. Like I totally get why this feels so different from something like Galaxy or 64 where it's like just collect X number of these things in this level. But like all that categorization stuff aside, I think this is to me one of my favorite Mario.
I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I bounce back and forth between 3D Land and this one because I love 3D Land the more I replay it. But I mean, I've had so many good times playing co-op for 3D World. It probably takes the edge.
Hanson, one of my favorite 3D Land memories was when it came out and we were like a couple weeks in and me, you, and Tim were all playing it. And we came in and me and Tim were like, yeah, the only thing we don't like about it is just like lives don't matter. We've got like 8,000 lives and you're looking at us like we're insane. And you're like, I am always by the skin of my teeth at like 1 life or 0 life.
I'm very bad. I'm a total Mario poser. I didn't grow up playing this stuff at all. So I always feel just horrible at all Mario games. But 3D World, I mean, fantastic. Is there anything new to say about it? I mean, if you have never played it, absolutely jump in.
Yeah, and online, I think also online I think brings up one of my favorite. Like, I think a lot of the reason people don't like it is because, well, it's like a co-op thing, so it is somehow lesser because of that. I think that it's like, well, the spaces are so big, which makes the level so slow. But I think that is one of the game's strongest like suits. I think that the fact that you can play co-op, I think makes it such a fun experience that only that game has. And like there are other co-op Mario games, but I think the 2D stuff just ends up being too chaotic in a way that makes the co-op less fun. Whereas I think this is like a really, really well put together co-op game that you can also enjoy single player. So I think that to me, that's not something to discount.
Yeah, and there's the right amount of co-op insanity where it's like, there are times where, oops, I accidentally threw you over an edge and you died or whatever. We're racing to get this thing and I got it first and we get in a fight over it. But it's the good kind of that versus the like sometimes the 4-player on like New Super Mario Brothers Wii. It's just like, we're all just jumping on each other's heads and we can't progress because it's just too chaotic. Everyone just go in a bubble and we'll go forward. Like that happens less in this.
That and like the perspective, like the kind of isometric perspective, I think it ends up being like pretty solid for platforming and like in terms of like you get that 3D feel, but you also have a good idea of where you're going to land, which there are some levels in even Galaxy that feel like, okay, where, like if I wasn't looking at my shadow, it would be hard to know where I'm going, especially as you're spinning around planets and stuff. But like, yeah, I think this game is just like 3D World, I think is awesome.
And then we get to Bowser's Fury, which according to Dan's criteria would fit right in there as a mainline 3D Mario because it only makes sense in his head. Explain how that doesn't work.
The word Mario is not in the title, so that's disqualified right away.
Jesus Christ. That's so stupid. But Bowser's Fury, this is the new thing for the Switch version. This is a lot different than I was expecting. Like the camera, it feels... I want to know the development history of Bowser's Fury so badly. I want to know, like, was it prototyped back then in the 3D World engine and then just left as a scrapped and then they just finished it for this? It's such a weird thing to like remix 3D World and basically give it more of the classic 3D Mario camera and then start to experiment with open world Mario design. There's 1,000 interesting things about this thing.
It still feels like 3D World's mechanics. So like I saw people saying like, oh, I bet it's like a scrapped Odyssey DLC. But then as soon as I started playing it, and it's like, well, no, you even have those tiny things like if you do the butt stomp and immediately hit Y, you do that same dive from 3D World. It's like, I think this is just straight up 3D World controls, but they just made it this big open world thing and gave you a free camera, which is wild.
Yeah, I mean, you could even like say it's half and half, right? Where they're like, here are a bunch of ideas. Here's like an idea for 1 or 2 levels. But at some point they realized, oh, we're going to re-release this game. So we're going to have to rebuild it in this engine. And so they said like, well, we're going to take these kind of concepts for like the waterfall level and like have the, have levels that kind of interconnect a little bit and then just kind of build it with these tools in mind. I think that to me seems like my guess. But it's definitely like, it felt weird, but I think the closest analog to me was Odyssey and not 3D World, even though that it has that game's basic moveset.
Yeah, it feels like a Super Mario 3D like art project, student art project. Something. It's like, here's this smaller, experimental, bizarre thing. And I was really frustrated just as a nerd because I was looking forward to seeing like, who's the director on this? Who was behind this? Where did it come from? And then they do the very noble thing of having the credits all alphabetical. So it's like, damn it, I can't actually see anybody's title, which is frustrating. But Kyle, you seemed hot on this thing.
I love it, man. I think the only negative thing I have to say about it is sometimes I would kind of get annoyed that I'd have to wait for Bowser when you get really deep into it.
Yeah.
You're up into like the 70, 80 cat shines. There were a couple that I'm like, oh, well, I just need to sit here and wait. But like outside of that, I loved it. I like, if this is like the direction for the next Mario, I'm 100% on board. Like I absolutely love the open world. I love just sort of coming across challenges. I like how the what's the sea creature's name? I forget its name, but
Lessie.
Like, yeah, even how that's integrated where she just like pops up when you need her, like it's weird. Like they just like predict where you'll need her, or she just shows up because you've been swimming for a while. Like I really loved it. I also just loved the lack of fall damage. Like you can go to the highest spot and you can jump from the highest spot and you just get this awesome like 45-second fall of Mario with his feet under him and you just like land and do the gymnastics like hands up in the air. I really enjoyed it a lot. Like it's on that I will remember when it comes to end of the year discussions.
Oh, wow.
You mentioned the Bowser stuff, and it's like, it's kind of crappy, but it makes it way, way easier if you have a Bowser amiibo, which I've got like 6 permutations of one. If you do that, it just pops up immediately. So it's like, I would get to a Fury block or something, like, boop, there you go. And he shows up.
Also, like, I like it. Like, that was like, waiting for it occasionally was a bummer. And sometimes, like, I would be in the middle of a jump and he would show up. But, like, there was that thing that was effective where it was like there's a level of intensity to it, and seeing him sort of like raising slowly in the distance, like with the goo, like it was just this cool experience. And I loved how short it was too. It's just this like, I love this like AAA experimentation. I don't know if that's accurate, but like it just feels like they put a lot of money in this little experiment. And I would love to see more stuff like it, like
I mean,
tacked on or sold for like $15 on the eShop or something like that. I loved it.
Yeah, like as much as I love like when an Odyssey level thing comes out and it's like, I want to spend dozens of hours getting every single thing in this. It's like, as soon as you're finished, it's like, man, do I have to wait like 5 years for another one of these things? Versus like, I wonder if I would almost prefer like, give me a Bowser's Fury level thing like every, 18 months or something.
Yeah, Bowser's Fury episode 2. Yeah, I think by the end of it, I was wondering
I'd be there day one. Absolutely.
I was trying to figure out like, is this the scope that the design can handle? At what point is it being limited by the open world design? Having Bowser pop up is cool the first couple times, but definitely by the end, it's like I've had enough of this rinse and repeat formula. Even just like in the main trying to do the actual quest. It's like, okay, this is the part where go get the bell, fight him a couple times. Like being Big Cat Mario is like cool the first time, and then after that, it's like, this is fine. It's just a slower version of running around.
You definitely start seeing like how they take a lot of those ideas and just say like, here's this level, we're going to have you complete kind of like the same loop of like 5 objectives here, where it's like get to the end of the level, you find the 5 hidden like cat pieces, and then you get a shrine, and then you have to come back later at some other point to get like here's like the time limited jump puzzle, and then here's the one where you have to destroy the blocks, and then they basically find a way to implement that into every kind of like isolated level. And so by the end of it, you're okay, I know what 5 shines are here. And so like that ends up being maybe a little bit repetitive, but I like the Bowser stuff because I think it's like one of the clever things they do with difficulty in this game, where it's on some level it's like super easy, where you have like the bank of power-ups and you can just always have access to everything.
Yeah.
And there are even some shines where it's like you get the little propeller box thing and you can just take that to another shine and just completely like eliminate any challenge. But there are also times where like, okay, I'm in the middle of this thing and Bowser's appeared. Okay, well, I guess I'm just doing a harder version of this jump puzzle thing. And I'm just gonna have to get through it while he's also throwing fire at me, and I have to get behind the little the blocks and stuff to make sure I don't get hit.
It's cool how much it rearranges it too. Like sometimes there's even benefits when Bowser shows up, like, oh, platform over here. This makes it a little bit easier. It's not immediately just, oh, now it's in hard mode. It's just a remixed mode.
There are times, it's very rare, but I almost never see this in a Nintendo game, where something just kind of breaks an objective or something you're trying to do. And the one that stands out to me is I was trying to do like some of the shines I thought were kind of boring, or there's those cats that want to find, you have to bring other like tiny cats to this big cat.
Yeah.
And one of them is you got to carry this thing and you can't really run while you're holding it. You got to get on this ice flow and wait a long time. You know, you can't really speed it up or anything. And in the middle of holding this cat, and like just waiting for this ice flow to get to the next thing, Bowser showed up, which turns the kittens into evil kittens.
Oh.
And so it's just like in my hands, I just watched this thing turn purple and attack me. And it's like, well, there's nothing I could have done about that. That was just bad luck, which Nintendo typically doesn't do that type of stuff.
Right. I think that like sums up some of my feelings about it, where I like it. I mean, 3D Mario team is unbelievable. So, you know, it's pizza. It can only get so bad, right? But there are times where I love 3D World and 3D Land, especially just for how clean the design is. It's just, you know, exactly what your objectives are, go do it. And this feels like one of the messiest, if not the messiest 3D Mario, just in terms of design. Just small things like you mentioned, Dan, or even just things like, okay, I got to collect all the cat shine pieces to get the cat shine piece here. I don't know what the range of this quote unquote level is. Where it's like kind of this island, but then there's like a platform going over here. Is that part of the arena? Just having like, it's a little mushy design wise at times. But
yeah, and I think that speaks to kind of my larger concern about it, which isn't necessarily a problem with the game, but because I really like this game overall, but there was this thing in the back of my mind where I'm kind of the opposite of Kyle, where I don't necessarily want it to go this direction, because this feels like a lot of what Odyssey did that I wasn't a fan of. Was this felt like hide and seek Mario, where it's like you're asking yourself where you're supposed to go next, of like you're kind of searching through all the nooks and crannies and trying to find everything. Whereas in my favorite Marios, like, and it's especially clear because this game is bundled with 3D World, one of the most like what I call like tag Mario, where it's just like, just get to the end. Like, here's a platforming challenge, get to the end of it. You know, maybe there's some side stuff along the way. And this feels like a very hide and seek Mario. And like, I don't like having to figure out where to go in a Mario game. I like seeing like a rotating piece of like, here's like this abstract geometry that you have to like make a coordinated series of jumps off of. Like that to me is like pure Mario to me. Whereas this, like, okay, fine, go and search for this part of it and then go over here. Like that to me is not as fun.
Yeah, I just love that consistent world. Like I like 3D World. As much as I love it, it does, and most, you know, Mario level-based games, it just feels like a series of challenges, you know what I mean? But like, you know, mainline Mario games, the Galaxies, the 64 and stuff like that, like they feel like a cohesive place that you kind of get to hang around in, where 3D World doesn't really feel like a cohesive place. It just feels like a series of challenges that are very enjoyable. So I think like Bowser's Fury really capitalizes on that specific element that I just happen to love in Mario games, you know?
Sure. I hear you. And
what do you think, Jeffem? Jeff Marky Papa?
He's been here the whole time. Dan, I don't know. Does that sound like
Jeff
is frustrated?
Is that like, this is a very minor thing, but like between playing through all of 3D Land like last week and then playing through 3D World and then playing Bowser's Fury, Nintendo has to be super proud of the Boom Boom and Pom Pom boss fights, because they are so common in all three of these games, and they're like, no, you're gonna have to do these like 3 or 4 times. They really like those fights.
Yeah.
Boom Boom Pom Pom.
There are better names, like in 3D World there was a Histocrat, and I was like, oh, this better be like a fancy snake, and I went in, yeah, it's a fancy snake.
Yeah, talking about like the open world design and how you don't like exploring that so much, Serial, like I had a weird feeling where I was playing this and I was like, it's an open world, but why does it not really feel like that? What does this remind me of? It reminds me of something, and it's a strange coincidence now, but I realized, it reminds me of Skyward Sword, where it's like, it's an open world, but like you're taking Plessy from island to island where the actual challenges are actually taking place. So I'm curious what a 3D open world Mario would look like.
A better line to draw?
Maybe.
There, not to like futz with your own metaphor.
No, that's probably fair.
Those are like isolated islands with like interconnected.
Yeah, but I wonder what it would look like if it was just, all one landmass instead of being broken up by these swimming sections or Plessy sections.
I will say that it does kind of refine a little bit of like, that hide and seek thing with Odyssey, where it's like, you can just do a butt stomp, and then like if you did it in the right spot and your controller vibrated, like here's a shine or here's a moon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas this feels like they've kind of pared it down a little bit. There's still like 100, but every one of them feels like, okay, you're doing something at least meaningful, or like that feels like it makes sense. When you see the big button, it's okay, I'm gonna have to do some platforming stuff. The last one is always gonna be get to the end of the level, then do the level backwards with the key in your hand. And then at the end, once you beat Bowser, they're like, here are the rest of the shines. Go find, like, just go to town on solving all these little puzzles instead of like, where do I go? Right. And then they have that really cool thing where it's like every time Bowser appears, there's this golden island that has like 5 cat shines on it, and you're supposed to head there every time Bowser appears. And so they do a better job of making the hide and seek stuff not feel so like you're kind of meandering.
They never explained the Shadow Luigi though. That's not Gooigi. What's going on with him?
Oh yeah, and it's not Bowser Jr. because he's with you.
Shadow Mario and Sunshine was Bowser Jr. Yeah,
exactly. That's weird.
What's going on?
I was really dumbstruck too by like the way they changed the presentation of having Bowser Jr. talk. We had to go back and double check it, but like in Sunshine, he talks, right? And then in this one, he's
Mother Peach.
Yeah, exactly. In this one, he's just kind of like miming, and then has like a bunch of signs that he's painted on and stuff, and then it just pops up like text deciphering what he's actually saying.
I love the paintings; those are fun.
That is really cool. Yeah, but hey, Bowser's Fury, yay!
Yeah,
yay.
Awesome. Good, awesome,
good. Everything's good in it except for those gross cat Koopas with the wet fur. They just look nasty. Ugh. They're gross.
There's a lot of cat stuff in that game.
It's too much cat stuff. Hey, Valheim.
Yeah.
Of course, we all predicted this would be the biggest game in the world.
I hear its music coming from the other room right now as Bianca plays it.
Oh my God. So this is a game published by Coffee Stain, the Goat Simulator people, developed by a Swedish team called Iron Gate. It's right now, at least according to their site, it's 4 full-time people and 1 contract worker. And the CEO is kind of like the main programmer for this thing. It's big. It's sold over 2 million copies. It's the second most played game on Steam right now. What is going on? I've enjoyed it, but I just keep thinking, why this? Out of all the survival games, Valheim, all right, I guess it's just approachable enough.
I think that must be it, because I haven't played, like, isn't Rust one of the big ones? There's like a bunch of them that are really big, like Rust and Raft and Shark or whatever, all these games on Steam. And I'm never interested in those. Yeah, this is one of them where it's like all of a sudden I had not heard of this game at all. And then I heard from like 3 or 4 different sources, whether it's, my friend Alex texting me about it or hearing about it online, and people being like, oh my God, I can't stop thinking about Valheim. Mm-hmm. I was like, all right, I got to check it out. I never play these types of games. It's just that genre of just like, I'm going to rub a rock and a stick together and then something happens. It's kind of that Minecraft-y survival type thing. Yep. And I thought Minecraft was really fun when I messed around with it for a while, back when it came out. But something about this genre never grabbed me. And like you, Ben, I'm trying to figure out why I'm going to end this podcast later tonight and then just go straight to playing more of it.
It's a certain amount of simplicity. I think there's also the idea, and I saw Dan Tack tweeting about this from Game Informer, but that idea that it's not as punishing. Like you're not going to die of hunger. It's just if you eat, you get stat boosts, kind of like a Monster Hunter type thing. And so it's more approachable, but it also feels more hardcore. Like it looks like an old MMO from like 2003 or something. It's got such a
one game.
Yeah. And so it's like maybe some old third-person Elder Scrolls fans are being roped in. It's just like this perfect Venn diagram of folks to gravitate towards this thing, and then it explodes.
It's a gig. The whole game is a gig.
It's really incredible.
I'll tell you one thing that I think maybe makes this stand out to me. Maybe I'm an idiot because maybe Rust has this and the other games do, but I didn't realize it. I love that it has that, like, hey, survive and build some stuff, but also I feel like there's more direction than I assumed this would have, because it's like there's boss fights. You need to get ready for this boss fight. It's like a Dark Souls type, like take this seriously, dodge and do you use range and bows and stuff, or do you hop in there and get greedy? And again, Rust might have that, but I was not aware of that. And this feels more like it's got direction. Like I've got bosses to take down and a clear line of progress to follow.
Yeah, it's got a cool theme. I mean, it's Scandinavian mythology. You're in Valheim and encountering, Odin's Raven and different dwarves and stuff like that. And there's runes everywhere that are giving you hints on how to take these folks down. And the building is surprisingly detailed. It seems cool to see, what people are putting together out there.
Yeah, like weird things like, you have to make a little chimney for your house, otherwise the smoke will fill up. Yeah, Ben, you kept catching your feet on fire standing on top of my treasure chest ladder.
Yeah, it was a good time.
The smoke was up, gathering at the ceiling. Like it's deeper in a lot of ways than you would expect. Like I love the physics on the trees when you chop them down. That stuff is really fun. The building is kind of janky in terms of like trying to connect the walls and stuff, but you do get used to it. Bianca's playing with the controller, which I tried that when I played with you the other night, Ben, and you can do most of the stuff with the controller, but you can tell it's something they need to flesh out, because like a lot of the prompts are still, press E to open this or whatever.
Right. And they say, they're open to it coming to consoles at some point. So I'm sure now Microsoft and Sony and maybe even Nintendo are in that arms race of like, who can get Valheim first? This hot new game, which it's so crazy. I mean, it was shown during the PC gaming show last year. And I'm sure it's just one of those things that everybody saw and was like, okay, one of those, whatever. Yeah. Another survival game on Steam.
It's scratching a weird itch for me, like Tale of the Sun, because I've actually been replaying some Tale of the Sun over the last month or so. I'm actually like over halfway through with it again.
Wow.
And I've been talking during the streams about like, man, I would love another just weird game like this, like Tale of the Sun. And I think the look helps a lot because it's got that kind of low poly PS1 look. But also, like, I know it's probably like Viking stuff or mythology, but to me, I just feel like a caveman running around trying to build a log cabin. And so it's just like I'm in a Tale of the Sun mood with like, the rune stones, and you get like a bonus from this and you don't know what it is, and it just feels like a new Tale of the Sun to me.
Perfect, exactly what you want. But yeah, Valheim, check it out.
Back at it again.
Yeah, they can't be stopped. Let us know what you think about Valheim. I'm sure it'll be in the running next week for New Show Plus. I'd love to jump into the game with Leo and stream some here. So if you're interested in that, you can support us on Patreon and vote for that to be the next show we air next week. Hey, real quick, tangent. I was thinking about survival games and the most successful survival games and stuff, crafting games. I am now obsessed with Terraria, the business model of it. Terraria, I should say. That developer, Relogic is the name of the developer, the primary developer. Dan, guess how many copies Terraria has sold?
Oh my God. No matter what I say, it's going to be more than I expect. 50 million.
You maniac. 30 million, but still. 30 million copies, and they haven't released another game. They've published like this little game called Pixel Piracy, but in terms of just like the secret wads of cash in the industry, it's like, where's the Terraria money going? They could have funded an army by now. It's really bizarre.
They're funding that army still.
Oh, yeah, maybe Terraria 2 is just going to be this huge, big budget. It's just going to be a Star Citizen or something. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
Oh, weird. I thought you were going to say that there's a militia running around Boston at some point. And it's like, this army's called Terraria 2.
It's the ultimate ARG.
Is it big with kids or something? It's always weird to me when it's like, because everyone I talk to plays video games for the most part. And outside of Tim playing it for like a month when it first came out a decade ago, I've never heard anyone bring up Terraria.
Really?
Like, but I don't know any kids. Are kids just constantly buying Terraria shirts and talking about it? Like, is it big with them? I'm just trying to figure out why I don't know anyone that plays it. I also don't know anyone that plays League of Legends, and apparently that took over the planet.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't. My frame of reference for this is my kid, and she's never talked about Terraria. Loves Minecraft, plays a lot of Roblox. Hasn't found Terraria yet, but I could see her really getting into it. Like, it seems like a very kid-friendly sort of alternate Minecraft,
Yeah.
The look, yeah.
All that stuff. Hey, Dan, do you know how this whole thing operates?
Whole thing,
like the reason that we're able to be here on the cool internet airwaves.
You got a Patreon.
That's right. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Thanks to everybody that supports us. Thanks to everybody that jumped in to play Trivia Tower. That was a really fun time. We're eager to hear your feedback. Thanks to everybody that supports us at a tier above that, including Will Cornelius. He wants everybody to know that if you own an Android or Tizen OS smartwatch and you're looking for a unique watch face with a retro sci-fi or futuristic design, download the Facer app to your smartphone and check out creator Cyberpunk. There are over 100 original watch faces, including neon and metallic backgrounds, unconventional time and date displays, dynamic battery life and stat tracking, and there's a new series of faces based on Dune's great houses. You can get free and premium watch faces available for $4.99. So thank you so much to Will Cornelius, and again, check that out.
Do you think he has like a nice, like a neon white, maybe? Like a neon white? Maybe?
I think so, yeah. You're looking for a neon white one? Yeah, you can speed run your way over that. Yeah.
What does neon white look like?
It'll be there. Okay. And Dan, you know what
Looks
it
like
is,
an
man.
assassin in heaven. I don't know what to tell you.
That's it.
Comes in 2 cards.
Dan,
Yes.
this week, you know what we're talking about? We can only talk about
What
one
are we
thing.
talking about?
We're talking about Spinch on Switch. That's right, Spinch! Developed by Queen Bee, published by Akupura Games. It is a psychedelic platformer, and you can get the physical edition of Spinch on Switch. Thanks to IM8-Bit, they have the IM8-Bit exclusive edition with illustrated zine by Jesse Jacobs, a reversible cover sheet, and art by Spinch creator Jesse Jacobs. And you can also get the vinyl soundtrack to Spinch, Dan. Spinch on Switch.
Are you just having fun saying it? Because it seems like it's fun to say.
You can try it, it's very fun.
Pretty good time.
Spinch. Yeah, all right.
And
Speaking of physical games, remember when the Direct spent a bunch of time on Hades getting a physical release?
It's not an announcement being like, hey, remember that game that everyone loves that's been out for a while? You can hold it now.
there's like a little
that
art
trailer-
Stuff in there, but an odd one.
I was waiting for new content. I'm like, oh, and check that. It's got all these bonus features. I was like, wait, are they going to add new content? And it's got the soundtrack, and it's got an art booklet. And there's a part of me was like, I kind of want that art booklet.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good product, but it's just it was an odd place for it to show up and get a spotlight.
I got my stupid hopes up too, because I think in the MinnMax Discord they were talking about who they want to see in Smash, and somebody brought up Zagreus, and I was like, God, that'd be a really cool, great choice. But okay,
Yeah, I can't imagine it happened. Like that roadmap has to be done at this point.
yeah. Anyways,
Also, I mean,
Spinch on
it started as
Switch.
an Epic.
That's true. But anyways, hey, check this out from IM8-Bit and their wonderful online store. If you use the promo code Valentine's, you get 10% off everything in their store under $100. So go there, support them. They've supported us for a long time, and they're very generous. They give out a wonderful gift from their online store to a MinnMax community member who submits our question of the week every single week. And this week, our favorite question will get the Sword and Sorcery Super Deluxe Edition vinyl. Which, talk about a great soundtrack. I gotta go back and listen to that sucker. It's great. Yeah. So Dan, it is up to you to remember all of these questions and remember your absolute favorite question.
Sure.
And then they will win that Sword and Sorcery soundtrack from IM8-Bit.
Known for my great memory. So
Okay.
let's do it.
Great, here we go. Josh Carmel writes in and says, "What's up, MinnMaxers? It's your boy Leafeon." Hello, sir. What is your favorite less popular / C tier or lower popularity Nintendo franchise?
Hang on. What do we consider C tier or lower?
Well, Josh here, he says, personally, I absolutely love Golden Sun. He considers that C tier, which kind of, yeah, B maybe, but yeah. But yeah.
C is not an indicator of quality, right? This is like
no, I think it's
like if Mario and Zelda and Donkey Kong are like the A ones everyone knows. We're talking
Metroid would be an A as well.
What's the B tier?
this is like marketing budget, I think, is a good way of looking at it, right?
Would you put WarioWare in there?
I would put Wario B.
Wario's
Like, I'm thinking like Dylan's Rolling Western.
great,
As a C.
great.
Pocket
You
Card
know?
Racer, Jockey, whatever.
Yeah, a solid game
Yep.
for 3DS. I play a lot of
Cross 3D. For Cross 3D.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess so.
that. Yeah.
Advanced Wars C.
Ooh.
Ooh,
I would say at this point, Advance Wars is a C and Fire Emblem is a B. Again, just talking about like the amount Nintendo seems to care about those franchises. It seems like Fire Emblem's at least a B, and they've kind of forgotten about.
I mean, that's
Advance
like a B
It's
plus.
like A. Yeah, it's up there for them for sure. In terms of like their mobile games, it's like it's probably their most popular mobile game. So
Yeah.
in terms of money made, I think that but it would probably be Advanced Wars. If Advanced Wars doesn't count, then it's maybe Pushmo.
Pushmo's a great
Pushmo's a
choice
good answer.
for sure. Mine's kind of in that realm too. What's that, Dan?
Is Pikmin B?
Pikmin seems B. This is as arbitrary as your 3D Mario
How
stuff.
about Rhythm Heaven? That might be mine if we would put that in the C tier.
Ooh, it deserves so much more.
Is that like a C plus?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, so does
maybe.
Advanced Wars. So
Yeah, C sharp, I think maybe. But Corinne, I can never pronounce that last word, but that's certainly one that I think is fair to say in the C category, where it's only had 3 games and only one of them has been released in the States, but still fantastic. And even their spiritual successors, Spinny's Journey, we stand a legend on Steam. There's plenty of good stuff, Nintendo. I mean, there are so many announcements they could have made at that Direct about bringing back Karoo.
Chibi Robo.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think that's a fair C tier at this point. Steister writes in, he says, hello everybody, Nintendo has a history of incredible announcements, from the incredibly produced and stylized fighter reveals in Smash to out of left field game announcements like Mario plus Rabbids. What announcement from Nintendo left the biggest impression on you? Whether it's from an awesome trailer, surprise twist, or a new game you never thought would happen, what stands out the most?
I think to me, the one that comes to mind the most is just when I think of like ones I really remember, it's the Revolution reveal, because there was so much hype is one of the words I would come up with here, but like also just mystery about like, I think everyone knew the Revolution was going to have some sort of gimmick. I forgot why, but Nintendo had made the phrasing clear that like this was going to be a different type of system with a different type of controller, you know?
I think it was like a different way to wording specifically. They're like, there's a reason we haven't shown the controller. Is what
that's right. And people were like doing all the like, oh, we found a patent and there's a screen on the controller that you can move around, which actually that kind of turned into the gamepad.
I think there might have been a later patent even for some of that before we used it.
For the Wii or the Wii U, where they were like, oh, it's like a different way to interact with your screen.
That might be the Wii, because it was wording like that, kind of like cryptic phrasing and stuff that everyone was going crazy on message boards trying to figure out what it was. And I remember this would have been like 2005 or whatever. Somebody put out a incredibly well done fake of like the Revolution revealed. I'm sure if you search for like Revolution fake trailer, it was called like the Nintendo On, I think, and they made this full on trailer of like, it showed like the Mario 64 castle and all that stuff, but it was all inside like this virtual reality helmet, and everyone was like, oh my god, they're making a VR system, like a new Virtual Boy, but good, and it's probably the most convincing, or maybe I was just younger and stupider, but I remember being like, wow, crazy, it's going to be a VR thing. Like I bought it.
I remember one of those early actual prototype controllers for the Wii. God, I'm trying to find a picture of it. I can't find it now, but it was just like, do you remember seeing this where it was just like a star from Mario and you just like grab onto this like circle or a star? It was just the weirdest, ugliest thing. God,
was it real concept stuff?
It was a real thing, yeah, of just like alternate rejected designs for the Wii controller. But
up there would be the Space World demo for GameCube Zelda, which again, I think that's why everyone started thinking that like the GameCube Zelda was going to be realistic, and that's why so many people were mad about the cell shading or whatever in Wind Waker, because we had already seen the capabilities. Like, what if Zelda looked like this on the GameCube? Which leads to the Twilight Princess reveal is one of the most like, I remember downloading that up IGN like a 5 megabyte file probably and watching it a billion times that summer.
That was the one they released
on G4. Yeah.
I think in that conference, they released like a DS cartridge with that trailer on it to the attendees. And then that ended up on eBay for like hundreds of dollars, like super quickly right after that. But I think I was thinking about like recent ones, and I thought about the Joker trailer. But then that just made me think of the Snake trailer for Brawl. I feel like that was one of the biggest, like we're bringing in third parties into Smash.
That was mine, was Snake and Brawl. I remember I watched it recently, and it was still just, I love how it happened. It was like my first memory of like a one last thing, and it was also like the trailer was so exciting up to that point. They were fine. They didn't need to have that huge reveal. Like it just meant so much more than just Snake being in the game. It meant like, oh, this opens the gates in a big way. You know what I mean?
Before Mega Man, Pac-Man, Sonic, all that stuff.
Yeah. Maybe because it's just so recent in my mind, but it wasn't that long ago. But just like that good level of just being surprised by how much they pack into a Direct was not that long ago when they closed out with the Link's Awakening reveal. Like that was so fun. Like standing at my desk at Game Informer, it just opens and it's like this awesome animation of the rain. And it's like, oh my God, this is the opening scene. And it's just such a cool moment, and just not a hint of a leak about that.
Yeah. That first big Odyssey trailer, like they'd done the short little tease of Mario running, but the one where it's like, oh, I'm a frog now. Like,
well, just when he jumps out and you see
this, started with the dinosaur and then it zoomed into the hat. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but it opens with the city, and it was like, is this like a new Sonic game? What is this? It's like, oh no, it turns out we need to really pay attention. This is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Well, I remember Smash Brothers Ultimate, because the way they would do it at E3, I don't know what the future will look like with this, but like they would let some journalists watch the Direct early. Like they would put us in a theater, and so we could watch it in advance. And they revealed Smash Brothers Ultimate, and the way I remember writing things down, I was like, okay, I need to write I need to make sure I'm going to start writing characters as they appear on screen in my notes, right? Like, just so I have the list. So tomorrow when I can talk about this, I could just publish, here's the roster. And I was writing them down frantically. And then it was like, they're all here. And I just remember stopping and being like, I don't need to write anything down anymore. Like, this is amazing. Like, I just remember like there was a point where I couldn't keep up anymore. And I just like threw my notes up and I was like, this is incredible. I don't need to write anything down. This is
ready with them.
You know?
Can you guys access the Discord chat? I'm going to send you a picture of this weird Star controller for the Wii that I finally found. Is that accessible?
What the hell is that?
I don't know how you're supposed to hold it. I don't know how it works. It's just like looks like a
that
dog
one's
toy.
Just a straight up TV remote. Like, it's like not even a controller.
And the bottom right's just silly putty.
Whatever.
That one still has the GameCube controller scheme. The ABXY.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing better than good rejected controller designs. Hugo H2P says, hey everybody, I was just playing Graceful Explosion Machine, one of Switch's earliest titles, and remembered how much people talked about its use of HD Rumble in reviews. Yet nowadays, you barely ever see this specific console feature mentioned anywhere when talking about new games. Have devs or journalists just stopped caring about it? But as a bigger question, in your opinion, what are some of the least memorable / unique features of a console? Something that was hyped up through PR and then no one cares about it.
Pressure sensitive PS2 buttons.
Yeah.
Which you pretty much just use to like softly lower your gun without shooting it in Metal Gear Solid 2.
Now it's just ruined every future version of Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3.
Yeah, you gotta hold like ZR or something and then let go of the button. Yeah.
No, but you would spray more, and that was fun. You would spray more ice spray for the bombs.
Yeah.
That's game design.
Yeah, you gotta take down Fat Man.
Gran Turismo, I think, used it.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
It was back when Accelerate would be on X for racing games.
I remember being really interested in the fact that the Wii remote had memory in it, with the idea that you could load up something on the controller and like take it to a friend's house.
Oh, weird.
And access it there. Like, I think the idea was like you put your Mii on it and then you can take the Mii to your friend's house and like, get back into the game with your Mii really quickly. But I don't think anyone ever took advantage of it. It was like 10 or like, I don't know, whatever the correct number is. I think there was like 16 megabytes of memory built into it, but no one did anything with it.
Faceplates for the 360.
Yes. Yes. The D-pad on the 64 controller outside of like wrestling games. What did you use that for?
Okay, let's really get emotional about the D-pad on the 64. Like, do you have that thing where, I mean, you're so used to playing 64 games, and then it's fun and exciting every once in a while to like move your hand over and be like, this is like feeling a whole new controller. I just never use it. It's just right here. Is it fun?
I only did it during wrestling games.
Okay.
I think it's kind of admirable that it really genuinely feels like two controllers in one without feeling bulky. But I don't know.
I want to say StarCraft 64 used it because it kind of needed to. But I don't remember what it was for. It might have been like for control groups or something, but I might just be making that up. But I remember having to like, oh, right, there's a whole other D-pad for this when I was playing StarCraft 64.
I mean, I like it. Everyone makes fun of the 64 controller, and like I just like the silhouette of it, and I just it's such a distinct look to it that like even if I don't ever use the D-pad, really, it's just it's one of my favorite controllers, I think.
Yeah, it's not really console specific, I guess, or maybe. Hang on, it was the Smart Glass sensation from what was that like E3 2013?
How else are you going to play Metal Gear Solid: The Phantom Pain, Ben? Have you told this story?
Oh, but on the Ground Zero's cover story trip and Phantom Pain cover story trip, they were so big. That was like a big beat that they really wanted to hit is like, oh, you've got to play Phantom Pain with this Smart Glass. So you have the map down there. Like, they were fine ideas, but I don't think I ever used Smart Glass for anything.
I tried it with Dead Rising 3 because that was a launch game, and they were, launch is when they actually try to incorporate like these new console gimmicks, so it's like, oh, you can call in like these satellite strikes and stuff and conceptually that is pretty cool, but like how often are you really doing like I was like, oh, I wonder if this will be fun for my sister to like, while I'm playing and I can like, oh, Kayla, drop a bomb over there, and it's like, no, that's not actually fun or engaging at all. No,
it's just more of a hassle. It's the reason that like, Pikmin 3 was kind of a pain in the ass to play in Wii U, where it's like, oh, you can have the map on the touchscreen, then you can use the nunchucks. Like, no one wants to set that up. Like, I don't want to prop up my Wii U controller to look for an extra screen there.
Remember the Game Boy Advance with the link cable for like, oh, you can go to the special island in Animal Crossing or the Tingle Tuner. It's just like, I don't know why there's always been this obsession with that like second screen thing that never really took off.
Yeah.
Like, the whole Wii U was based on that,
Yeah. Dan, have you seen Rogue Heroes on Steam?
No, I made a note to take a look. I heard people say some, what is it like? It's like Link to the Past art style with like rogue stuff. And
it's
co-op.
It's like a Four Swords game. Yeah. I think it has online co-op too, but it's coming out February 23rd. We played it for one of the last Great Goaty hunts. That seemed cool. Nice. Let's see. Spencer Bortine says, "Hey everybody, I managed to get a Series X on the latest Walmart drop, bringing my next gen hunt to an official close. Congratulations." So my question for the panel: those that have managed to get both consoles so far, where have your preferences fallen? Are you still swooning over the DualSense's potential? Is Quick Resume the game changer you've been waiting for? Where are we at?
At launch, definitely preferred PS5. I like the controller a lot. Astro really shows the DualSense stuff really well, and I just love the hell out of Astro. And like the launch lineup was so much better on PS5. There's so many like unique games to it. Whereas the Series X, I remember like at launch, it's like, I guess I'll do some backwards compatible games. But as time has gone on and games aren't really coming out for either of them, I'm not really turning on the PS5 that much because I've already played through, what I'm going to play of the new games. And I like playing old games a lot. And the Series X has a ton. I played through Banjo-Kazooie on it. And yeah, it's a lot better for that. So I'm currently playing Series X more, but I will probably over the lifespan gravitate towards the PS5.
Yeah, I'm still playing more PS5 for sure. It still feels like my go-to home console. But every time I play the Series X, it's like, I should play this more. I like the feel of the controller. I like how many games are packed into this sucker. You're right. There's enough there to make it exciting every time I do boot it up.
Yeah. The UI seems a little snappier.
Yeah, I think that the UI and the controller, I think to me are the big two things that make me prefer it overall. I'm going to the PS5 because I have to at some point, because that's like where my Destiny group is, and that's where more of the exclusives are. Even Persona 5 Strikers isn't on Xbox. But I think at this point, if I have a choice, I think I'll probably go Series X because I like, I'm just comfortable with that interface. It's a little like hit or miss, but I like the quick resume stuff. Like I was, just testing it out. I was bouncing between like Cuphead and Pac-Man, just bouncing between those two games without having to being able to resume both of those, I think is really cool. But I think both of the controllers are pretty good, but I prefer the Series X ones. I love the D-pad. I think it's maybe my favorite D-pad I've ever used.
Jesus.
I had to set the PS5 controller off to get repaired. The buttons were just they were just really sticky and weird, and it was a common problem. I found a Reddit thread where a lot of people were talking about it, and they, Sony repaired it quickly, but it was still a frustration to have to deal with that.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm on the same page as you guys. The PlayStation 5 is cool, and it will be the place where I play PlayStation exclusive games. But if I have the choice, I'm going to go Xbox just because it feels like a really nice piece of hardware. And I also move my console around the house a lot, which is not really a common thing. And the Xbox is way easier to move than the PlayStation because the PlayStation has a separate stand and it's an odd shape and it's much bigger. So
first, the Xbox it's just a box.
It's just a box that I put under my arm.
Yeah, I'm going to
throw a football into the bedroom and it's fine.
Yeah, put a GameCube handle on that sucker.
Hell yeah.
Also, controversial statement, but I went back and because we had to stream all of Monster of the Deep: Final Fantasy 15, the standalone PSVR fishing game, on our YouTube channel. Please check that out. But I had to go back and play with the DualShock 4 for that one. And going back to the PS4 controller, I think I might like it more than the PS5 controller. Really? I think there's a little bit of that honeymoon period where I think I like the feel of the PS4 controller more.
Oh my God, I went back and I held it for a second after playing with the DualSense, and I just vomited all over it.
Really? Vomited?
Yeah, I ruined it, yeah.
Oh, did you send it into Sony?
No, they didn't want it.
Oh my God.
Was it also because you were playing... Was it also because you were playing Monster from the Deep in VR and you were just as soon as you held it, you were like, oh, I'm so motion sick, I'm going to barf into my controller.
Yeah, there's a lot of complaints about that. Yeah, Twitter's lighting up with Monster of the Deep, Final Fantasy 15, PSVR.
Everybody's talking about it.
That game is
I've never heard of.
It's so freaking weird. The Final Fantasy team packed a whole story into this fishing game, and you're fighting fish. The end of the game, you have a crossbow and you're firing it into this demon fish as it's flying down on you, and basically a new version of Sephiroth's theme is blasting. It is a bonkers game.
Wait, Hanson, are you maybe the only human who has played the Final Fantasy 15 fishing game but has not beaten Final Fantasy 15?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am, Kyle. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Mm-hmm. Also, we talked.
Is in touch. He's going to be emailing you.
We talked about it a little bit in that stream, but it was this weird memory of when we visited the studio for the cover story trip back at Game Informer for Final Fantasy 15. They were starting to experiment in VR. Like that team eventually, I'd imagine, led to what became Monster of the Deep. And so they brought us into this side room and they're like, hey, put on this VR helmet. Check it out. Check out our work. I'm like, okay, sure. So we put on the VR helmet and it was like they had fully recreated the room that we were standing in, except like this weird digital version of it. And then on the table in front of us, which was just like the table in the conference room, there was just like a sleeping Japanese lady just sleeping on the table. And then there were like
in VR?
Yeah. Yeah, she wasn't there in real life. I don't think. I guess I should have checked. But yeah, just like that was their VR test, is they made a Japanese lady sleeping on their conference room table, and then they had like a bunch of little behemoths from Final Fantasy like crawling over her body as she slept. It was weird. It was just a thing of like, they were so proud of what they'd done, and they're tech wizards, they're great, and they just put it on and be like, cool, all right, hey, keep at it. Have you thought of fishing? Let's see, Harold Lang the fourth, he says, Trivia Tower was a blast. I got a few people interested in checking out the channel thanks to such a fun community-focused idea. Thank you. But enough praise. My question, with the release of Bowser's Fury, it got me thinking, what's your favorite spin-off? And what makes for a good spin-off?
You got to take a character that's well liked and you want to dive. Like, I always like the idea of Mortal Kombat Mythology's Sub-Zero or Nina Williams' Death by Degrees, where it's like, well, all these fighting game characters have these super sweet backstories and stuff, but like you never get to play them. But it just seems like those games always suck. Like Mortal Kombat Special Forces, like, yeah, you're Jackson Sonya, but it sucks. Except for Shaolin Monks. Okay, there's mine. Shaolin Monks. Shaolin Monks is my favorite spinoff.
And so what's the secret there? Right. Just good gameplay?
It is fan service in all the best ways, and that it's taking you through like, the best Mortal Kombat games, the first three, with all the characters and those classic designs and everything. And it's kind of like all tying it together. Like, you ever play Virtual Springfield, the CD-ROM thing? Where you think so, yeah. And it's like weird to be able to like, oh, I can walk from like Homer's house to like the Quickie Mart. I never pictured it being there in my mind, Whereas in Shaolin Monks, it's like, okay, so I'm at the pit, or I'm at the pit 2 or something. And then I leave and it's like, oh, and now I'm in this other area. And I never thought about these places being connected. Or I think it was MK11's Crypt. It was like Shang Tsung's island from the first one.
Right.
It's like, I love that fan service of like, hey, it's a spinoff, so we're going to give you all this fun stuff from the original thing that you love, but also let you play it in a different way. Like, you're doing fatalities and stuff as Liu Kang and Kung Lao, and playing through those stories, but in a totally different way.
Yeah. What do you think is history's first spinoff?
In games?
No, like history, like story-wise.
Entertainment or just human history?
Entertainment in human history.
The train from that one movie ever show up in a different movie?
Yeah, the
Lumiere brothers.
The train was such a hit when it came towards the screen. They spun it off. That's why there's trains in other movies. They're all connected.
There's one of it going away from the screen.
We're all in the train cinematic universe.
TCU.
It's funny though, because like you think about all these huge, Jaws, is typically seen as the first like summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
And Star Wars around the same time. You start seeing these huge IPs and movies pop up in like the late 70s. And I'm trying to think of any like spin-off. I was talking to Bianca about this today because I just watched that terrible trailer for the Cruella de Vil movie. Did you see this?
I thought that trailer ruled, dude. I am so into that.
I thought it was like some executive saw that Joker made a bunch of money, and I just hate this thing of like, hey, here's this popular thing, like, but what made Nurse Ratched become mean? It's like, no, it's the Anakin Skywalker thing that sucked 20 years ago. Why do we keep doing like, here's the origin story of Wednesday Addams or Cruella de Vil? I think it's the lamest thing.
You keep doing.
Just talking about how much you love these Mortal Kombat characters and wanted to hone in on them.
Yeah, it turns out you just don't like Disney.
If it was Kung Lao as a baby, I would think it's lame. No, it's Kung Lao cutting dudes with his hat, going to fight Shao Kahn.
Yeah, it's Cruella de Vil like blowing up buildings. All we need to know
about Cruella de Vil is it's the I, Tonya director, which is like one of the best movies of the last decade for me. I love I, Tonya, so I'm on board based on that.
All day about how lame that Cruella trailer was. It's like, this is the dumbest. This seems like a parody, like an SNL parody of a bad like origin story.
I don't know if it's going to be great, but maybe just because I love Disney, but like I'm all for that. Man, I saw Maleficent. That movie sucked, but I'm still glad that like, oh, it's cool to see them reviving some of their old animation ideas, Like,
what is it? Was that a spin-off of like a Disney movie?
Yeah. Maleficent is Snow White. Wait, no, not Snow White.
Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty. Thank you so much. Yeah. Jesus.
Is it like her origin story? Like how she got sleepy?
Yes, it is. It's a story about how a woman. Yeah, she got sleeping.
It was Thanksgiving and I had a turkey.
Took some Tylenol PM and it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
I had that melatonin.
Okay, this is a weird deep cut. But do you think the first spin-off is like the Aeneid? Like spinning off from the Iliad? Because like Aeneas is in that, and then the Italians were like, we'll take that character, and then we're going to make a whole book about his journey, and it's going to be better than Odysseus's and whatnot.
What about like the New Testament? Is that a spin-off?
What are you? That's just a sequel. That's a classic sequel.
Okay, you're right.
We got you the Old Testament.
Anyways, hey.
We got to figure out what it is. What's the first spinoff?
It's the Aeneid.
Wait, is it Super Mario Brothers? The guy from Donkey Kong?
It's probably gaming's first spinoff.
Yeah,
that's straight up a spinoff. Is Mario a spinoff?
I guess so.
Is Pac-Man? Is that a sequel?
That's a sequel.
Yeah, I think Mario would probably be the first big spinoff. There's probably something before that, but
or would it be Mario Bros is technically the spinoff?
Oh yeah.
I did want to
conceptualize because like wasn't it Jumpman and then they made Mario? Like by the time Mario Brothers came around, was it like a fact that Jumpman was Mario?
I think Jumpman started going by his Christian name in Mario Bros.
That's true. Hey, Luca Rezkigno writes in and says, "I love
Persona's the best spinoff, by the way."
Yeah,
okay.
I was gonna say Persona 3. Yeah.
But they say I love retro games almost as much as I love modern games, and there's a common sentiment that certain genres peaked years ago or decades ago and never reached those highs again. Do you feel this way about any games or genres? And on the flip side, are there any genres that you feel like have only gotten better with time?
Car combat.
Car combat has peaked?
Yeah, because I remember as a huge Twisted Metal fan in 2010, 2011, whatever E3 that was, I remember watching that Sony conference and they ended with like bringing out a big, sweet tooth truck on stage and Daffy came out. And like that was the big thing. And I was like, oh my God, they're bringing Twisted Metal back. And I reviewed that. And I think I gave it a decent score, like an 8 something.
Yeah,
but like, I remember thinking like, this feels kind of like a relic at this point, and unless they like did something new at this point, like a cool battle royale type car combat game, I can't remember the last one. Like I tried to play Destruction All Stars.
Yeah,
and there's some fun ideas there, but overall, I just think that formula feels dated.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these genres kind of fall in that category of like, I don't know how much life is ahead of them. And I was even thinking about like RPGs, but then I was like, okay, if you really want to boil it down to the core of an RPG, like it's very rare that I felt like I'm truly role playing within a video game. So that seems like that's for the future. That's 25 years from now, I'll actually be able to fully role play in my Matrix world. So that's still
funny.
Living.
Like RPG was like my example that I think is always getting better, but it's also like a matter of my personal taste. Because like RPGs were limited, they had to have random battles and they had turn-based because the technological capability, didn't allow them to do real-time action. So as those things fall aside and the sort of large-scale epic journeys remain, and you have like RPGs where there is no random battles and you don't have to do turn-based action, like I have more fun with those, and I think those are on an upward trajectory, always improving. But I mean, that's also a question of like, well, is an action RPG, is an open world action RPG, is that even in the same genre as like Final Fantasy VI? I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe not.
It's too murky.
I would say maybe character action games are kind of at that point where, like, I mean, Bayonetta 3 could be like incredible, but I think that playing Devil May Cry 5, I remember really liking that game, but thinking like, this is a really good version of something I've already played. Like there aren't a ton of ideas here that make me think like, oh, this is like the next thing for Devil May Cry. Like I can't, like, this is such a new concept. I feel like ever since they just figured out like grappling is really fun to do, where like push them, like pull me or whatever. Like I feel like that was like the trick that kind of completed that genre, and everything since then has been like, okay, this is really well done, but I've kind of already played this game. So I would love it for Bayonetta to prove me wrong. But at this point, it feels like everything else is just going to be kind of iterations on this particular archetype.
It's weird, though, how some genres seem to avoid getting stale despite kind of following that same trajectory. Like, I was hoping today that we'd see like a Mario Kart 9. And it's like, Mario Kart has been Mario Kart since the Super Nintendo. They've added, here's a glider, and the courses look better, and the gravity stuff or whatever. But Mario Kart 8 is the same concept you were playing, 20 years ago. And I'm still I can't get enough of it. If I played Mario Kart right now, I'd be having a blast. Like, I don't know what's so timeless about like kart racing versus character action.
Well, forget kart. I think that's a good example of a genre that has only gotten better with time, is just the racing game genre. I mean, no matter what your taste is, I mean, unquestionably, it's just gotten better on every front, right?
I think even with, go ahead.
I was going to say like a Forza Horizon, even though like I'm mainly like an arcade racer type guy, and Horizon's more arcadey than more motorsport, I know. But like, look at what that's done as far as like an open world racing game with all these different things to do. You're still just a car going from point A to point B, but like they've managed to blow out that genre in so many interesting ways.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I think like Mario Kart has actually done a pretty good job of refining itself by saying like, okay, the basic premise is still the same, but like the idea of, oh, you're collecting coins on the track to get yourself slightly faster every time, I think is like a really neat idea that is like, oh, this is still that game. And you can like, if you played Mario Kart 64, you'll still have like, this is still the same baseline, but like kind of tuning it so that if you want to get better at it, here are these very easy avenues to do that. I think is really smart.
And then there's Mario Kart Live Home Circuit to bring it to the next level, of course.
Making it real.
Did you play it, Dan?
I've only used it as like a gimmick when I'm doing like my amiibo battles and stuff, and I need another camera that can move around the house and like scare my dogs. But I've gotten some good use out of it that way.
Oh, good. Hey, Dan, what was up with that moment a while ago where you pretended to talk to Jeff? That was really confusing.
Because I realized it took an hour of talking on this podcast where I was like, wait, isn't Mark Yafava on this show? What, did you guys can him? What happened? Did he refuse to be on?
He's been tweeting some pretty controversial stuff lately. You got to give him the X. You know how it goes. Hey, Michael Moran writes in.
He didn't answer it. Why isn't he here?
I know it's a 4-person podcast. It's like our default is 4. So we said Jeff him. Yeah, and he's look, he likes Nintendo, but he's not like die hard Nintendo. You know,
this isn't so about the Ninja Gaiden Super Replay, is it?
I don't know. Oh, speaking of which, hey, Brian Tylek writes in, says, hey everyone, this question is for Dan. Dan, have you forgiven Joe Juba for cold-bloodedly murdering Ric Flair in Tale of the Sun?
No, I'll never forgive Joe Juba for anything. But, you know, now that I do have a new lineage of Tale of the Sun I've been working on, I have been able to let the past lie, and I've got all sorts of new cavemen and adventures, you know, not to diminish the beauty of the first run through, but yeah, Joe. You know, I was going to say Joe sucks, but no, you know, I haven't seen Joe in a long time, and every time I catch up with him and get to talk to him again, it's just like, oh, I miss you, Joe.
Yeah, that's perfect. Hey, Michael Moran wrote in, and he says, do you guys tip on carryout orders?
Yeah,
I do. I do, because whenever I see a tip line, I feel like, well, I'm going to look like a damn jerk if I don't tip here. But then I've you know, been close to people who have been like, oh, what are you doing? Why do you, you know, give dollars there? And so I thought I had a tip line, you know, like at Chipotle. Chipotle is a great example. Like, you know,
why did you give dollars there? Who says that sentence to you?
Probably not verbatim, but I don't know. Some people have very strong opinions about that, and maybe I'm just a sucker, but it's like a lot of times if I see a tip line, I'll be like, all right.
Yeah, I had that same experience where I think we ordered pizza, and then I was like, I think someone said like, here, I'll pay for it. Here's the money. And then I remember ringing up like, well, did you have like, is enough for the pizza and the tip? And he just was like very like, what? Why would you tip someone for a carryout? You're going to go get them. You're tipping them because they came to you. And I'm like, oh, I remember just tipping, but I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. But I remember like there was like heated conversation about whether or not you tip people. So it's a weird thing to have really strong opinions about, because usually it's like, hey, like they don't make enough money as it is anyway, so you may as well tip them.
Yeah, but I mean, the pay structure for like restaurant staff is really shitty. So like I always put that slider all the way to the right when I have the opportunity, because it's like, it's just crappy the way they can get a lower wage. And I mean, there are certain places like Chipotle and Domino's where I think they get, you know, their normal wages, which is good. But yeah, I always, especially now and during the pandemic, I always put it up.
Yeah. One of the fun perks of working at Game Informer was when we went on trips and could just expense tips. I was like, how much would you like to tip your Uber driver? The maximum possible. Yeah. As much as I can without getting in trouble. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Everybody's like, all right, crank it up to the max. Here we go. Thanks, Papa GameStop.
And look, if the ride was terrible, you get 5 stars because I got the ride for free.
And now they're one of the richest companies in the world, so we only help them by draining their funds.
I feel strongly about it because I remember when I first learned about the concept of tipping is I was with my mom, and like she was paying the bill on something and she wrote a tip, and I was like, Mom, what's that? What's that mean? What's the tip? And she goes, oh, well, that's, you know, it's bonus money you give the waiter or the waitress on top of what it costs your food. And I was like, why would you do that? She goes, well, you know, because I don't like, you know, get paid as much, whatever. And I remember as a small child being like, but you don't have to give them that money? She was like, no, but you do. And she was a waitress the whole time I was growing up. She was a Chili's waitress. And so it was like, she put the fear of God into me. Because like, I was like, well, when I get grown up, I'm never going to give a tip. If you don't have to, that'd be silly to give someone money you don't have to. And she came down on me so hard and like ever since I got older, it's like, okay, you tip well, you know?
That's the least surprising story I've ever heard about you. It's really just
me at 5 was like, I don't want to give my money away.
Yeah, it's just that Homer joke on the episode of The Simpsons with Mr. Bergstrom, like the substitute teacher. They go to the museum and Homer's like, wait, so that's a donation box? I don't have to put any money in there? And then he sees Mr. Bergstrom start to put money in there. He's like, no, sir, you don't have to do that. It's optional.
Just saying, get the tip back.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, Felix Davin writes in, he says, hey, everybody, once the pandemic page will be turned, do you think game writing will turn to more comedic themes and characters overall? A lot of collectively praised games in the last decade tend to be a bit bleak. Maybe this is a giant sigh we're going through. Maybe this giant sigh we're going through will result in happier games. I like that idea a lot.
I think it will. Yeah.
You look even at like
sort of is reflective of the state of mind, and right now we need positivity to sort of build us up a little bit. So
even
I
something
think across all media, I think it'll be happier.
I think it's always been all across the spectrum. You would have like you'd have Katamari Damacy, but then you'd also have, you know, these games that were like, Twisted Metal Black, you know, and you'd have very cartoony stuff, and then like, you know, loaded and kind of try hard, like, oh, this is hardcore, edgy, this is M-rated. Like, that's not a new thing, really. I think,
but you would agree that,
reboot.
I mean, I think it's too easy to be like, oh, you know, the Last of Us-ification of the industry, or even, you know, peak Zack Snyder, even though I guess we're about to hit peak Zack Snyder, but, you know, like the Batman v Superman, like that kind of shift in media, I feel like there is enough of a momentum wave to feel like, it seems like we've gotten darker over the last 15 years in terms of the gritty
Marvel
reboot.
Movies dark?
The what?
Are the Marvel movies dark, or is that like you said, Batman, Superman? I realize I don't know if these movies are like dark or anything. Like, is that across the board with superhero stuff?
No.
I mean, Marvel is this sort of, I think I talked about it recently, the sort of trend that I point to of like taking childhood things very seriously. So I think it's like dark in that regard, but they are comedies. I think Marvel movies are comedies almost first and foremost.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I don't know. It's an odd question.
Yeah. But you think of even, you know, is there any factor for Fall Guys' success with the pandemic? I guess maybe just playing online, but is there something? It's probably a percentage of a percentage, you know, like
it's party game stuff. I mean, Mario Party was always popular, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
I just think there's going to be a lot more attributing. Like, I would like to see stories of people saying, well, my game was going to be dark, but then the pandemic happened, so I decided to make it lighter.
Right.
Whereas I think what you're going to get is like, well, we made it happy, you know, like, here's our happy game. We made it happy because we wanted to get away from the pandemic, versus like, oh, we really wanted to lean into the pandemic for like whatever darker stories they want to tell.
The Balan Wonder Worlds.
Yeah.
The
darkest story ever told.
Yeah, I think the thing that's different now is this is the first kind of time period I've ever seen that backlash against something like, you know, like Last of Us 2. It's a dark game. And I saw so many people be like, things are pretty rough right now. I don't think I can play a sad game.
Right.
And like, I've never, ever heard that before when like, you know, a dark game came out and people were like, I can't do this right now. Yeah. And I feel like just this like last couple of years.
Yeah.
Engaging with stuff, I think, has changed dramatically a lot. Because right now I'm like basically binging the Great British Baking Show, something I wouldn't have done like otherwise. Like, I always like to like have a list of like, here are the TV shows I have to watch, and I've very like in the pandemic, just like, I'll just watch whatever like my first impulse is, and right now it's watching people bake. I don't know.
That's perfect, man. Meat Tornado rates in. He says, when you're playing a melee combat based game, where do you prefer the attack buttons to be on the controller? R1 and R2 or square and triangle?
Always
square triangle for you, Dan? Yeah, I think I'm in the same camp. I think just this comes down to, are you a From Software fan or not, right?
Well, no, I think it just depends on the game for me. If there's a block button, I generally like the trigger stuff. But if it's like Devil May Cry where there's no real block button, then square and triangle I think is fine. I think it's like the shoulder buttons make me act more deliberately, so that's why like usually when there's a block or like a parry button, I think that's usually when I like to use the shoulders.
Yeah, I don't find comboing as effective on R1 and R2 in general. Like Phoenix Rising, I feel like should have been square and triangle because it was a much quicker. I was tapping R1 a lot, which doesn't like, I think it works in Dark Souls because you're not really tapping excessively if you're playing it well, you know.
Or you're not like stringing stuff like I need to do my R1 and then my R2 combo. Like there's not like a complicated sequence that you need to pull off. It is like I get your attacks in while you can. Whereas in something like Devil May Cry, it's like it is like you have to do like forward, back, in the air or whatever. So that stuff, that more complex stuff, I think, works better on square and triangle or like X, Y.
Yeah, like the flashier Devil May Cry like fighting game type moves versus like the deliberate From Software stuff.
Yeah. Charles Davis writes in specifically for you, Dan. He says, "You're dead." Charles,
wake up.
He said,
I'm sorry?
He said, "You're dead.
And out of this world.
The next thing you see is a prompt that gives you the following options. Which do you pick? Next level, restart, spectate, or new game plus?" It's just like a black screen, white text. You choose between those four. Next level, restart, spectate, or new game plus. And you're holding it.
Break it all down.
Yeah.
Let's break it all down. Next level would be like a reincarnation situation, right? So you could be a grasshopper, or you could be a rich guy.
I don't think so.
No, I think you continue. I think you pick up where you left off.
I take next level to mean moving to whatever another world or dimension would be, like some sort of ascension or something.
So that's scary. There's a mystery there.
There's a mystery.
So that's next level. What's the next one?
Restart, which I think would be reincarnation within your own body. As they say in Brave Fencer Musashi,
Memory
when you
wipe.
die, Brave Fencer Musashi says, if I get reincarnated, I want to be Musashi again. And so I think that's a situation there.
Okay, well, I don't know why you would ever pick restart over New Game Plus. If New Game Plus is start again, but with all, like, you could be like a super smart baby and get rich real quick.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Yeah, maybe that's the distinction. Yeah, restart is like wiping your memory. And the New Game Plus
is the way
is
to go here.
smart rich baby. Because everybody knows, Dan, if you had all your memories and you were a baby, how would you get rich?
Well, I would wait till because you don't have to wait. I don't know babies, but I am assuming you don't need to wait for your vocal cords to like grow. I bet it's just your brains are stupid when you're a baby. So let's say I'm 3 weeks old and my vocal cords work. I've got a little baby voice, but I'm just like E equals MC squared. And then all of a sudden I'm on the Today Show and then I'm writing books and stuff and everyone's going to buy the baby book.
I like the idea of you being birthed, pulled out of your mother, and as you're coming out, just me, just like getting ready to talk immediately. You would scare the hell out of everybody.
Simpsons really fell off a cliff after season 10.
So as a baby, you'd be the world's first baby on Cameo.
Ooh, I would go 500. By the way, #1 gamer on Cameo right here.
All
That's
right,
a shoot. I did a child's birthday party booked from Cameo. I literally performed because the dad was going to get the kid a magician, and the kid said he wanted a famous video gamer, and so the dad didn't. He just went on Cameo, and I'm the #1 gamer on there, and he's like, "Do you do kids' birthday parties?" And I was like, "I do now. What do you want?" And I zoomed in, and I taught the kid Mega Man and Mario tricks and stuff, and there were 40 kids on the call, and it was beautiful chaos. It was great.
It was a live call. There's live cameos.
Yes. It's great because so there were the parents and then there were 1 billion kids. It was a 7th birthday party. So there were a lot of kids that were 6 or 7 who some of them, despite the parents saying, "Hey, please mute your call," cool tricks, they had all the questions in the world or just wanted to tell me that they were eating candy. And then cool. 20% of the call was older relatives. So it's as I'm trying to explain that I got a Guinness record for playing Mario or they put me in LA Noire. It's just here's 2 70-year-olds just on a Zoom call, just clearly have no idea what's going on.
Whereas the kids went nuts when you said LA Noire. He's dropping the LA N-bomb.
You know what the best part was, though, that genuinely just filled me with joy? The game that I brought up that all the kids lit up for and were asking questions for and telling me their stories and everything. Breath of the Wild. They were all telling me about all these things they did. And I remember thinking it's great. It's not just this nostalgia old man thing where it's I loved it because I'm old and I grew up with it or whatever. It's all these 7-year-olds telling me about I did this thing and I put on a Bokoblin mask and they all thought I was a Bokoblin. It was amazing.
Do you think there was a parent hovering over the disconnect button just in case you got weird at any moment?
No, I did some tech tests with the dad and stuff ahead of time. They were cool with me. They were great.
That's bizarre. So the point is you would be a big, fat, rich baby on Cameo?
Yeah, I think you could easily pull $1,000 a Cameo if you were a talking smart baby.
If you're a boss.
And you don't even have to be smart by adult standards because I'm not a smart guy, but compared to babies, oh my God.
I would wreck shop on those babies.
Oh my God. Put me in jeopardy against any kid. I will rock them.
Please, whoever's running Jeopardy now, get him in there.
I will use my knowledge of basic motor skills to decimate the field.
Kyle, how old's your kid now?
You want to bring shapes into this?
Kyle, how old's your kid?
9.
I could probably beat your kid in a smart competition.
As an adult or a baby?
Now. Well, it'd be the same smarts. So like smart baby me would also beat your 9-year-old child.
Well, that's a good question.
Are you good at math? Are you a math guy, Dan?
I'm good at everything up to like calculus and stuff. Any kind of mental math and stuff I'm pretty good at.
I wonder, what about like what your daughter's learning about right now in school? Like, is she taking like a geography class or like a, biology class or something, Kyle? Like, it'd be interesting just to see like, all right, right now she's learning about basic American history. Would she know more than Dan? I think that's a close race.
You learned a lot about President's Day today. What's your President's Day knowledge?
The day itself, it's about presidents. That's about all I know.
Yeah, which two specifically?
Washington and Lincoln.
All right, that's good. That's good.
I thought, Hanson, you were going to ask, could baby reincarnated Dan take on Claire, Kyle's sister now? Could 9-year-old Claire beat baby Dan with his knowledge of motor skill? With his
New Game Plus Dan, which is me.
Right.
My brain now.
And we aren't paying enough attention to the spectate option, which like a no-clip camera through life would be pretty cool. But what scares me there is there's no like end game in sight. So like that sounds pretty sweet, but I would get tired of it after 2 weeks, and then it's like, all right, ready for the next one, and it's nothing. You're stuck there forever.
When the sun blows up, you need to find where the other intelligent life is. And I don't know how fast you can move, how fast the camera is, but I mean, you could just be floating around in space forever.
So that's a no-go. It's very tempting. You press the
D-pad to go to the next character.
Okay, there we go.
You spectate all your teammates, Dan,
if you had that, what would be your first spectate move? Where would you no-clip fly to?
Before the sun blows up?
Like right now, if you could no-clip fly. White House? Or is that lame?
What's that?
White House bathroom?
I'd probably go see what Norm Macdonald is doing right now.
You know what he's doing. He has his hand halfway down his pants and he's eating chips and gambling on some sport game you've never seen.
You're 100% correct.
Yeah.
He's tweeting about golf and sweatpants.
Oh boy, I've chosen correctly for the afterlife.
That's a great question. I don't know. White House is too boring.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say White House is too boring.
Yeah.
I would just want to see the day-to-day of certain people. I've always wanted to know what Miyamoto's just day is. What does he do?
Gardening.
He tweets about golf, hand down his pants.
Does he program anything? Does he just like sit in a white room and write down ideas? Like, I have no idea.
I bet he just like waters plants for 7 hours. That's what I imagine his life is like.
Practices banjo. I think he's over banjo. I think that was more 64 era. So now he's probably moved on from that.
He does like
now he's into nuts and bolts. We all have jokes.
Does anybody... Tables are like the Chili's things when there's kids and you got crayons and you can draw on the table. Do you think he's like, there has to be creativity everywhere?
I bet he's a lot drier and more boring. And
he does 1 hour in the office every day
Fantasy 14 character.
where he walks around the office, tells all the people at the office he's got to do a wahoo here and then he's got to do a wahoo there. All right, I'm going to go garden for 7 more hours. See you guys later.
Yeah, I mean, New Game Plus sounds so weird. But I guess
the best one,
I guess that would be the best way to go. But you'd spend so much of your time like second guessing yourself and trying to be cool, pretend you don't know everything, even though you're a 9-year-old. Don't be outed as a smart 9-year-old.
You gotta know. How are you gonna get rich? How are you gonna be a rich baby if you're trying to hide that you're smart?
Don't you know from your Cameo funds, money doesn't buy happiness. Your pot of Cameo gold.
New Game Plus is great. That's the obvious answer to this question, I think.
Yeah.
I just need to know that, like, because I like my life a lot. And so I want to make sure that all the core path of my life, I got to make sure, like, I hope I don't do anything. I hope being a rich, smart baby doesn't change me as a person so that when I meet Bianca, years later, she's going to be like, oh, you seem like someone who grew up as a rich baby. I don't like you.
Right. Or like,
the idea is that you're reliving your life with all of the knowledge that you had. You're not like being reincarnated with all your knowledge. You're like, time is not moving forward in this scenario.
But you would have a different life experience of, like, you would get rich and famous and stuff, and it might change you as a person and thus have consequences later. You can't just recreate the same path if you had a different life growing up,
Everybody leave a YouTube comment if you're reliving your life. I'm curious if anybody out there is, because I don't think any of us are.
Any New Life plusers out there?
Anyways, yeah, next level would be cool too. Anyways, thanks for writing in, Charles Davis, but the answer is New Game Plus. Dan, what do you like? Favorite question of the week here?
I think it was a timely one with the Nintendo announcement impact. I thought it was fun to kind of think back and like, oh yeah, I remember all these things.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. I mean, that Afterlife
That
one.
last one.
It's really, it's a humdinger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that. Everybody else likes the Nintendo announcement?
I like the Nintendo announcement, yeah.
All right, there we go. That is Steister. Congratulations, Steister. I Am 8-Bit will ship you out a wonderful prize from their wonderful online store. And thanks to everybody else that submitted a comment, which is available to everybody who supports us at any tier on Patreon. We have a post every week, and then you leave your comment there. And then we read it on the show, and you make the show better, I think is how it works. Now it's time for something we call Get a Load of This. Kyle, hit us, dude.
Mm-hmm. So this was something on Reddit. I believe it was in a subreddit.
Oh, your voice is gross now.
Something along the lines of what? What's that?
Your voice is gross and clipping.
What?
Okay, maybe it's better now.
Oh, here, is this better?
No, you shut up for a little bit. Serial, you do your Get a Load of This while Kyle's mic sorts itself out.
Okay, so Get a Load of This. Dan, I'm sure you'll love this. I feel like this just combines all of your interests. Yesterday, they announced a Dota anime called Dota Dragon's Blood. And it's going to be on Netflix, and it is animated by the studio who did Legend of Korra.
Oh, weird.
They showed off a trailer. It's like a minute long. It's got two characters I don't care about, Dragon Knight and Mirana. Because there's like if you're gonna make a series about this, I guess they're two human characters. Most of the characters I would say in Dota aren't even human. So I guess, but it's like I very quickly realized like this is a thing that is meant for me. Yeah. And I don't know that I super care that much.
That's a bad sign. Right now, predict it. Will it get a season 2?
I think it'll get a season 2, and that's it.
That's it. Okay.
But like, I don't know. Yeah, this could outsense it. Like, I watched the trailer and like, this could not be Dota, and I wouldn't be able to tell the difference because I don't know what that story has to do with Dota because there's no real story. Like, I don't know what they're going to talk about. Like the story of how like Dragon Knight's like Dragon Tail stun went from 3 to 3.25 seconds when he went to level 7. Like that can't have anything. Like my interest in Dota is based on those kinds of dumb things. Whereas this is like, I don't care how this guy became the Dragon Knight. I don't like. It's not an interesting story.
Yeah,
but I'll watch it.
It will be like a Yu-Gi-Oh approach that like teaches the game. You know, it's part of the plot.
The first episode is them just standing around near creeps, going, "I'm gonna get you later, but not right now. I have to kill this creep."
Hey, get a load of this. Maybe everybody else on the internet has pieced this together, but I heard it on the Kind of Funny Games Daily podcast, and I was like, oh, that's such a smart choice. So they revealed the release date for Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. And then at the very end of that PlayStation post, they say, I think it's June, by the way, Dan, June 11th, maybe? Okay. But the bottom of the post, they say, and yes, we know you're asking for the new Lombax's name. This is the female Lombax that's at the end of the trailer. And it's not fair that we put her in the art and we aren't telling you her name yet. Hang in there. You'll be feeling Rosie soon. And so everyone's like, her name is Rosie? What? But then, of course, the internet immediately pieced it together, and it's such a smart name choice. Is anybody having a guess for what her name is? A female Lombax, and their hint is Rosie?
Rashida.
No. Is it that poster?
Yes. Yes.
And she's holding a wrench?
She's
We Can Do It?
Yeah.
What's that, Serial?
That's Rosie, right?
Yes. So the guess is, her name is Rivet. Which
Ratchet and Rivet.
Isn't that a brilliant name?
That's very good.
That's like
very good.
It's like top-notch Nintendo Treehouse. They'll probably just say that her name is Rosie and people are overthinking it. But if it is in fact Rivet, that's like, that's the perfect choice.
I mean, I'm more interested in her height personally, but
all right, here we go.
He's actually 19 feet tall.
They should just say that. Whatever. It's the Ratchet & Clank universe. Everything's big. All right, Kyle.
The camera cuts off before we see Kyle's boner.
All right, Kyle. Tell us to get a load of something.
Which is also.
Oh no.
All right. So is my mic working now?
You betcha.
Okay. So there was this subreddit. There was like a thread that was like things that you accept as canon in fiction that like has never been stated as canon. And someone posted, Kermit caused September 11th.
Jeez,
not really much of a fan theory, though, since it's unintentionally canon. And then they came back a little while later and said, edit, realized this should be explained. In the 2002 TV film, It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, there's a part where an angel shows Kermit an alternate reality where he was never born. For whatever reason, the editors didn't really think about it, and continue to use footage with the Twin Towers still standing for this scene. However, they aren't there in his original universe. Therefore, something that Kermit did in his life did in fact cause September 11th in Muppet lore.
He's new show plussing it. I mean, new game plussing it.
Using all my knowledge, I'm going to cause 9/11.
Oh, spot on. Oh, my God. Jim Henson, ladies and gentlemen, on the call. Unbelievable.
Blue sky.
Dan, do you got one here?
Yeah. Get a load of this. You got Bianca told me I got to make sure to say get a load of this beforehand.
Yeah,
so
very smart.
Okay. Do you have the thing I sent you?
Here it is. This is a clip with music from Super Mario 64, and it goes places, but it's a little bit of a journey here, so sit tight.
Yes. So it's going to take a second. So it's going to play a little bit of the very beginning of 64 when
Yeah, we're hearing it. Shut up. We're listening.
I can talk over this. For the video, it does show like a timeline. Somebody brought this into like audition or something, and then like each time it plays it, it's bringing it tighter and tighter and highlighting a certain part of this music, and then let it keep going.
Okay. And then still going. And then it transitions to that's the music from Donkey Kong.
Yeah. So that tiny little bit there is a little reference to that looping part from Donkey Kong.
That is.
But it's just this tiny little thing. So like you keep cropping it down.
Yeah.
And then you just take these notes here and it's like, oh, that's the Donkey Kong loop.
So you're saying Koji Kondo. No new ideas coming.
Total hack.
It's a really cool idea. And maybe it's just like, oh, these notes feel like Mario and it's a coincidence, but that'd be so cool if it is just the general vibe.
It's like the backwards Zelda's Lullaby from Skyward Sword kind of.
Right.
That song is still so awesome. When that was blasting in the trailer, got me all excited again. Hey, get a load of this. People in the community submit get a loads of this or whatever you want to call the plural in the wonderful MinnMax Discord, which you get access to if you support us at any tier on Patreon. And Interrada sent this tweet from Tom McGovern, and I first saw it and I was like, okay, I think I get it, but let's just sit this one out. So this is a tweet from Tom McGovern, and it says, Jack and Diane, but all the lyrics are sucking on a chili dog, which is a line from that song.
Yeah.
But, okay, here we go.
Sucking on a chili dog, 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 chili dog, sucking on a chili dog, sucking on a dog, sucking on a chili dog, chili, sucking on a chili dog, sucking on a dog, sucking on a chili dog, sucking on.
Good stuff.
Oh, here we go, yeah.
Sucking on chili dog, sucking on a dog, sucking on a chili dog, sucking on chili, sucking on a dog, sucking on.
All right, that's it.
Sucking down chili dogs. Is it sucking on? I guess
It's sucking on a chili dog.
It's always been a weird lyric.
Oh, jeez.
All right, thanks to the community for submitting that. Oh boy! All right, time for plugs, everybody. Dan, what do you want to plug, man?
It's all on danreichert.com, RYCKERT. That's you got the Twitch, you got the Cameo, got the Instagram, all that stuff. So Dan Reichert pretty much everywhere. And then Panning the Stream, wherever you get your podcast apps. It's me and my wife Bianca watching stuff on Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and all that business and talking about it every week. That's kind of my stuff. And then just follow on the Twitch channel. I do all sorts of old stuff, new stuff. It's all games. So yeah, see you there.
We'll see you there.
Do you have in the queue for Painting the Stream? Do you have Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar?
I saw a couple people mention that. Is that a comedy?
Yes, I think you would like it. I think.
I've heard that. We tend to not do a ton of comedy stuff because we started, we did a little bit early on, and then it's just like, well, if it's good, it's just like, hey, this joke was funny, and it's like there's not a lot to, so we tend to not do that, but maybe we should just watch it.
if you watch it, just send me a tweet and tell me what you think of it. I just want to know what you think of it.
I can do that.
Interesting. Let's see. For MinnMax stuff, we have a lot of stuff going up this week. Surreal and Jeffem hosted a new show plus show that people voted for, where it's gaming's greatest debates, and they settled debates in the courtroom that people submitted in chat. So it was a fun time. Kyle hosted or conducted an interview with the narrative designer for Little Nightmares 2. That's on our YouTube channel and also in the Patreon exclusive podcast feed. Trivia Tower we mentioned. We'd appreciate if you checked out Trivia Tower. If you missed bar trivia, you want some fun video game trivia, check it out on our YouTube channel. Any help sharing it would be appreciated. Also, we mentioned it last week, but we renamed MinnFax, which is our Patreon exclusive podcast. It is now MinnMax Council. And Kyle called in this week to the MinnMax Council, and in that episode we run through the history of Grezzo, who's the studio who did the Link's Awakening remake and also the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. But Dan, it's an interesting studio where it's founded by Koichi Ishii, who was the director and creator of the Mana series, but he also goes back to the earliest Final Fantasies. And so he's the reason he invented chocobos, Moogles, crystals in Final Fantasy. Like, so much came from this guy. And he said that originally these were all like elementary school sketches. And he said there was a chocobo, a Moogle, and a third creature, which they never included. And he never reveals what this creature is. But anyways, we talk about that history of Grezzo. It's an interesting little tidbit. So you can check that out in the Patreon exclusive podcast feed. Also on our music podcast Crossfade, Gareth Coker, the composer for Ori and Immortals, was on last week. I missed this, but apparently he's co-composing Halo Infinite. And on that episode of our Crossfade podcast, he talks about composing Halo Infinite, which is the first interview about the music for Halo Infinite. So if you want to check that out, it's in the Crossfade podcast in your favorite podcast app. He has some interesting thoughts just on Halo music philosophically. Also on Monday, we have an interview coming up with your former coworker, Dan, Ben Pack.
Oh, yeah.
From Giant Bomb, talking about his life now.
I heard something from him recently. I should have said during the Valheim thing, but it cracks me up. I guess Valheim's one of those games where you just do something more and you level up. And I think he said a macro or something to just jump all night while he was asleep. And so when he woke up, his character was level 80 and he jumped so high that he took fall damage from his own jumps.
That's so good.
That's awesome.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, Valheim's a good game. And thank you to everybody who supports us on Patreon. Thanks to everybody who supports us at the $50 tier. I'm talking about Will Cornelius, I Am 8-Bit, Jawarhello, Mirko Arico-Torreno, MoonFaceNick, Zachary Pligge, BeatenDownBrian, Seth, Ludwig Roque, Mark Seliga, Andrew Vala, Jesse Vitelli, SuperSeriousSam, Thomas Hoster, Yarrow, SpiralInYourEyes, Richard Smuts, Clint Farley, Spider Dan, Preetham Yarlagadda, Clayton Myers, Starkiller, Steve Bamdad, SlyckNic, and Alex Payne. Thanks so much, everybody. Dan, thanks for being here, dude.
Anytime. It's a blast.
That's great. All right, thanks so much, everybody. Be good, have fun. Let's go.